Welcome everyone to Footy Fanatics episode 6, where we're going to get into the big six teams, the results of the weekend, the performances, and we're going to talk to fans who know everything about their club. We've got resident fans in the house. We've got a couple of fans hopefully joining us in a bit, and they're going to tell us everything we need to know about their team's performance, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you ain't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now, hit the like button, and hit the share button. Support the channel. We're a new channel. We're up and coming. And if you want to be on this channel and you want to give some thoughts on your team, you want to get on here and banter with us about your club, do send us a message and we'll definitely get you on at some point in the next few weeks. Now, the running order of today's program is going to be Manchester United winning the Europa League, the EFL,
Europa
the,
League,
the English, not yet, the English League Cup, the EFL. Well done, G, on that. We'll get you on in a minute.
Thank you very much.
We're then going to move to Arsenal's away win to Leicester City, 1-0, which kicked us off this weekend with a midday kickoff on Saturday. We're then going to move to City's win away to Bournemouth, 4-1, and they replied to Arsenal's win, so they kept that title race as it was in terms of points. We then moved to Liverpool, who drew to Palace away. They dropped points in their top four hunt. We haven't got a Liverpool fan at the moment with us, but hopefully we'll have one joining. So we'll get into Liverpool's draw and losing points away to Palace. And then we'll finish with the London derby, which was Tottenham 2, Chelsea 0. And Tottenham winning again at home. Tottenham beating Chelsea for the first time at their home ground at the new stadium. And Mr. Potter and Mr. VJ and Mr. Todd Bowley have a big week on their hands in terms of where they go from here. But we'll be getting into all of that very soon. But before we do that, I'd like to welcome our lovely fan pundits, experts, whatever you want to call them, the local guys that know more than the professionals, the guy you can meet in a pub and have a chat with and a pint with, and he'll even give you his signature and his autograph if you ask nicely. Let's bring in our first guest. He's smiling, he's happy, because after 7 years, he's picked up the the EFL Cup. After 7 years of trying, Manchester United's G is in the house. Manchester United's G's in the house. G, how are you, mate? And welcome to the show, and congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. I'll take it from the Spurs supporter. No, it's brilliant. It's great to win, and I just think everything's accumulated in a fantastic win for the team, and massively thrilled for them as well.
I don't know can you guys hear feedback on G's headphones?
Yeah. Can you hear now? Is that better?
I think it's just moving, but keep going, mate.
Yeah, I was just saying that it's been
it's
awesome.
Still there. It's still
there. Sounds like you're underwater.
Yeah, okay, it does sound like you're underwater, man.
Let's just play this.
Yeah, take it out, man. Right, G, whilst you're fixing that, we have the man with the bravest face in football right now, the man that turns up regardless of the situation, the man that shows face when no other Chelsea man is anywhere to be seen, the heart, the lion, the man of West London. VJ, how are you, sir?
Yeah, well, I guess I could be better, have been better, but you always look forward to these sessions just to get everything off my chest, ready for the week ahead.
100%, mate. I think you and probably another 1 million Chelsea fans up and down the country tonight have got heavy chests, mate, and we will listen into all your therapy and try and help you in the next hour or so in terms of what the hell is happening at Chelsea. And we definitely have some blame and naming and shaming and all the rest of it to do with Chelsea because they are in freefall. But going from freefall to a club that always is in the title race, a club that off the pitch has controversy surrounding them at the moment, and that's maybe a show for another day, Ricky. 3 points, mate, back to winning ways, and 4 goals, mate. What more can you ask for, man? Man City doing the business, mate.
Yeah, excellent. I think we're just overall very authoritative. Like, against Forest, we should have scored 4 or 5 goals. We scored 4 goals against Bournemouth. We've beaten them the last, I think 14 games now. If you look at the aggregate score, 45 versus 5, it's the team that we just love to beat. Like, we've got a 100% record against them. So yeah, very happy. Great performance. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, more of the same. I think
Well done.
Yeah.
Listen, from a Tottenham fan's point of view, I was supporting City just to give that title race a bit more spice. And obviously, I don't want Arsenal to win the title for personal reasons. So well done to Manchester City for smashing it, on the weekend. And they had to answer a big question. But gee, we've got you back now. Hopefully, the
Yeah, man.
sound seems like it's sorted out. It's a little bit something going on in the background, but we'll see how we go, mate. And then you might
Okay,
need
cool.
to log back on with another device, worst case.
Yeah.
Let's start with this. So the running order is United, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Spurs, and Chelsea. We're then going to have a Premier League quiz where I've got 4 really difficult questions for you this week, guys. You're going to really need your thinking caps on, and you're really going to need your Hey Google or Hey Siri ready as well for these ones, because they are good questions. And then we're going to finish with Team of the Weekend, which is a new feature on this show, which is where we basically ask the pundits to put their best player in the team and pick a best player for that position. Just going from the big 6 teams results this weekend, we pick the best player from each position. So we'll get your feedback on that as well, chaps. If you are going to be in the comments, make sure you give us a message or two on what you think, who you support, who should be in the team of the weekend. Any questions you've got for our fans and experts in the house tonight, and hopefully we'll have a couple more joining soon as well. We are keeping an eye on the boxing, so you can relax and chill with us, and we'll keep you updated. VJ, our boxing expert there, is going to be keeping an eye on the Fury Jake Paul fight, and we'll keep you posted on that round by round. We'll just dip in and out of VJ's thoughts there. He probably prefers watching boxing at the moment than football, by the way his team were playing.
I've seen enough of that on the pitch, to be honest.
He's seen enough knockouts for one weekend, or one day, I should say. Right, G, let's get you back in. So listen, congratulations from all of us here at Foot Fanatics, man. And talk us through the performance and how it all went down, mate.
Yeah, I think it was a great performance. I think we came in with the right mindset.
Hold on, G. Can you guys hear that? It's quite bad, yeah?
Yeah, that's actually worse than before.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, we lost him.
Turned into Terminator there, didn't he? Right. Okay. We've lost him. Gee, I hope you're still alive, mate. Out there, mate. You ain't short-circuited. Lads, let's start with you guys. I'll give my running thoughts on the Man United results. So I watched the game on TV. I'm sure a lot of guys watched it on TV. It was, I think United deserved to win. There he's back again. United deserved to win. Gee, mate. There you are.
Let's see if this works. Is that better?
You're perfectly clear, mate.
Yeah.
Go for it, mate. Take over.
Okay, yeah, no, it's good. I like Spurs supporters talking about United. It's good. No, I think in general we played really, really well. We came in with the right mindset as well. You could hear it in the sort of pre-match pieces. I think Roy Keane speaks really well that United need to be in these sort of competitions, fighting for the cups and the league. And it's just kind of nice that we've returned back. I mean, everyone talks about it. Fergie was there in the stands as well. It's important that United, a club that big, spending the sort of money it has as well in the last few seasons, has something to show for it. So really, really happy. I thought they played really well. Casemiro again, being defined as the glue. He was brilliant. Fred, he's a man possessed, and he's playing incredibly well. Solid back 4. Luke Shaw had the game of his life. I thought overall everyone played incredibly well, and I think I don't know what your thoughts are, but maybe Rashford should have been credited with that goal, but maybe that's just being greedy on the day. Game management from Ten Hag was spot on, and we closed it out by putting 5 into the midfield at one point. And I think Newcastle just didn't have an answer. Even though originally I thought they could have given us a lot of grief, because when they took Sam Maximan off, he was the one maverick I thought that could have caused us havoc, which is a weird decision if he isn't injured. And I thought we really handled it well. Varane again, world class, absolutely world class. Martinez, can't believe he's 5'8" and takes on anybody who's 6'3". It doesn't matter if it's Mateta or whoever. He was phenomenal as well. So overall, very pleased. Really happy to pick up a trophy. Harry Maguire, felt a little bit for him. It was like everyone gets a medal sort of game for him. And I think he should have let Bruno pick it up, because Bruno was outstanding, has been as captain. And when you look at his goal involvements and with him and without him, United are a different team. So no, overall fantastic. I thought it was a great day out for the fans as well. Newcastle just made the atmosphere electric prior to the start of the game. So yeah, fair kudos. They showed up. They turned up. They didn't have their first choice keeper. They made a really good game out of it.
Yeah, thanks for that, G. Thanks for that. VJ, what about you, man? Did you get a chance to watch it and any feedback?
Yeah, definitely watched it. Yeah, I think United were definitely the better side. I think Newcastle gave it a very good go. Good spectacle for the neutral watching it. Nice to see goals as well, which is something that Chelsea is certainly lacking at the moment. I just found that Newcastle were, since obviously they've not been in this position for a while, and I'm sure they'll win something in the next few years. I thought they were just a little bit too desperate for it. And I think United were calm, measured. They knew they had this momentum was on their side, and effectively when they needed to land a few punches, using the boxing analogy, they did, and they walked away with it. Yeah, good game.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward win, wasn't it? Ricky, any
Yeah.
envy to the mate? You've got loads of trophies to fall back on, mate. Any
Do
envy?
you know what? Looking at when United played Brentford and they lost, and now how many months forwards, and you see United winning this trophy. As a City fan, I am standing
had a
up
day
and
off.
taking notice of United. I think they can definitely do some damage. United haven't got City or Arsenal, in the follow up to the rest of the season, so they're not going to impact that. But I think they'll definitely be up there. I think going for the title race, you cannot count out United now. I still think, City and Arsenal are up there, but United have got a good chance of at least finishing second, and if not in winning it. I wouldn't be surprised. I thought Karius did really well, if I'm being honest. But watching the game, it could have been like 4-5 net, 4 goals they could have scored, but he made some really great saves. So I expected United to win the game with all the kind of momentum behind Eric Ten Hag, etc. But I think they're just going to bounce on from here. Got West Ham on Wednesday, and they got Liverpool on the weekend. Great week for United overall.
Yeah. Gee, I was going to ask you a question actually, mate, about the fixture list. You're in 4 competitions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in a title race, whether you like it or not. Mathematically, you might not be in reality because of your squad. And I get the whole over reliance on Rashford, on Casemiro, a couple of players out, and you're back to top 4. But you're in 4 competitions now. Liverpool were in 4 competitions this time last season, and they're probably paying some of that price now by not refreshing the squad in the summer and in the January window. And some of those legs are tiring now. We've seen with Hendo and everything. And then obviously adding a World Cup as well. Do you worry being in 4 competitions? And at what point, I mean, you're in 3, because you've won 1. So the quad's on. You've got 3 competitions. You've got the Premier League, you've got the FA Cup, and you've got the Europa League. Now you've got Real Betis in the Europa League. So most people have you down as favourites for that.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does Ten Hag start? Is it a game by game, week by week, or do you now have to start maybe not making the Klopp mistake and saying, forget the treble or the quad or whatever, we just go for our top priorities, which is the Premier League if you are in a title race, if you think you really are one, or you think not screw the Premier League, just get your top 4, or win the Europa League and get Champions League, because that's another way in. How do you look at the next 2-3 months panning out? Because you haven't got the bigger squad, have you, in terms of quality? Yeah.
No, I agree, but I also look at the sort of really successful Chelsea team that Mourinho had, and they didn't have a huge squad either. And I think that's a competition for places. So it comes down to the quality, and the piece here is we would love to win, the Europa. We would love to win the FA Cup, and I think the Premier League, unfortunately, might just be a little bit too far out because of those 2 competitions as well. So it depends on how far we go and how deep we go into the other competitions. Yes, Real Betis on paper looks easy, but everything on paper looks easy. On game time, it depends. But I also think every player has raised their level by about 10%, 20%. And they are taking on, the sort of noise that's coming from the coaches as well. So, when you look at Sancho, suddenly you'd expect him to have a much better last sort of 10 games to the end of the season, because he's come back in that right frame. Wan-Bissaka's in the same place. McTominay should hopefully have got over his injury and he's coming back strong. We have got some good players that can impact. The key for us is don't concede a lot of goals and try and score more goals. I mean, this is the basics of football, right? And it's more about getting Weghorst, I don't know how you buy him a goal or whatever, but he needs to start scoring, because that's almost a position that requires you to sort of score goals. You know, not everyone's Jordan Ayew who can score 5 goals in 95 games and keep their place, right? So that's the bit that's missing for me. If we're getting 20 odd goals from that striking position, then, you know, suddenly we should be winning everything. And people joke about it, but we're probably 2 signings away from winning the Premier League, and 2 quality signings at that into the spine to, you know, and then we'll make the difference. Everyone was raising their eyebrows about Casemiro when he was signed, and rightly so, because of his age and his contract value. But that's what's probably won us the first cup, I would say. He was outstanding today, and he's been outstanding throughout the whole season.
Mate, talking of making noise, and United are making big noise, but we can still hear a little bit of, I don't know if you guys can hear that bit of noise. Maybe it's best you sign in with a different device. I think, I don't know if the mic on this device, is it your phone or?
It's on the iPad, but let me try and do it from the phone.
Just do it from your phone, mate. Yeah, it'll be fine, because phone mics are decent.
Cool.
We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Sweet.
Lads, I'll just throw it out to you, man. Obviously, like, you guys have, from your own clubs over the last few years, you've been in a situation where you've got a treble on, or maybe even a quad on. What point do you, if you're Ten Hag now, at what point do you start becoming selective, or do you look at these next 6 fixtures and just go for each one and just stay in them as long as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, it sounds like a cliche answer. I think it is game by game, isn't it? I don't think anybody's talking about United being in the title race, but mathematically they are, and it only needs. And what are they? 5 points behind City at the moment, or 5 points behind Arsenal? Can't remember. You know, if Arsenal and City have another weekend where they both draw and drop a couple of points each, United are there, right? They're a point behind or 2, and they're well in the title race, and accidentally they could end up being top of the Premier League if there's another couple of blips between Arsenal and City, which is absolutely possible. So I think Ten Hag is clever enough to know that, but he's not shouting about that happening. But you know, he's gone and won the Carabao Cup. That's in the bag now, so that's done and dusted. That will boost their confidence massively, and he could ride off the back of that for a little while in the Europa League. And I think once he's sort of making strides deep into the Europa League, then there might be a balancing act depending on where they are in the Premier League. But I don't think he's focusing on the Premier League right now. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think Man City and Arsenal got each other to play. Man City got Chelsea. You know, Arsenal have got some big teams. We've both got Liverpool as well. So I think there's so many fixtures, and there's such like interesting fixtures, like big games for City and Arsenal, that anything can happen. And so if I was Ten Hag, and with the momentum, I keep saying momentum, but everything that's going for them, the takeover, and winning today, like they've got everything to go for, and they can be there. There's distraction for City in the Champions League, and obviously Arsenal and United in the same competition in the Europa League. But yeah, I would not rule out going for the title all the way, because the way City are, I've been a City fan all my life, the way we are, we can sometimes just throw things away. And Arsenal are new to this experience of going for the title, so I think it's a really good chance for United, especially right now with Liverpool and Chelsea quite low down. And the fact that they've beaten Newcastle as well, their confidence will be, really hit today at Newcastle. So yeah, I think United have got a really good chance to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that squad, I'm just going to bring up the team now. The United squad is quite bare when you look outside those centre backs.
I think that's the point, Josh. And I think, you get an injury a couple of games on a Rashford or a Bruno, or a Martinez at the back, and they could easily draw a couple of games, right? Or even lose a game as well. So I think it's a bit like the Liverpool team from the last few seasons. They were brilliant when they were playing that sort of relatively fixed 12 or 13 players week in, week out. And the more they played, the better they were. And when they had like a week off, they would typically end up sort of drawing or even losing a game, which was quite rare for them. So yeah, I think you've got to count them in the title race, but I do think they are third choice. I think City and and Arsenal definitely a level above them.
Yeah, I often will always say this to other fans from seeing United back in the day winning it, from Chelsea squads winning it, from Man City squads winning it, and I'd say this to Arsenal and United fans now, is your the subs bench and the squad is often which gets you through these trebles or doubles or multiple competitions. You're playing every 3 days. You don't have rest time to rest the legs of the Rashfords, the Casemiros, and you mentioned there Martinez and those guys. At some point, the mental pressure kicks in over the physical pressure as well, or the mental fatigue starts to really kick in. The traveling, the pressure, and I think Liverpool became victim to that last season. And yes, you can have a great first 11, and looking at this first 11, guys, he's assembled it. Luke Shaw wasn't anything decent last season, neither was Fred or Dallo, and he's turned them into world beaters. Well, not world beaters, but he's turned them into 7 out of 10 players, 8 out of 10 players. They deliver good performances week in, week out. Marcus Rashford's been a revelation, from school dinners to finishing his dinner every game, leaving that plate clean, nothing left on Rashford's plate. He's reinvented Bruno with getting rid of Ronaldo and linking him up a bit more. And then obviously the big signing of Casemiro. Fred has come good. And who would have said Weghorst in January would have fitted into this first 11? I kind of saw Weghorst and thought, is he a 85-minute off the bench guy that's going to come on and get you a goal when you need a draw, like an ugly goal? But he's actually fitted all these players into a system that works for all of them. And I think that's the genius of Ten Hag, is there's a template, there's a vision. And when we come to Chelsea, we'll be talking about where is all this vision and template, right? If you can do it with these kind of players, a mixed bag of good and bad or good and average, how he does it is amazing. It just shows that this man knows what he wants. He knows what it looks like. He knows what each player knows what they should be doing. And I just think it's amazing how he can come in this, like, a few months ago, just come in and take this squad. And yes, they've added quality. Obviously, they've spent good money getting their B targets. They didn't necessarily get their A targets. They got their B targets, Man United. But I just think the man's underrated. But what I do think with United is that this squad here, guys, when you look at this subs bench, Tom Heaton, okay, goalkeepers, never mind. Yeah, like, goalkeepers generally aren't great. The second ones, anyways, they normally they know they're going to sub it the whole season. But Lindelof is a worry. But then when you put him next to Martinez or Varane, looks okay. You look at this Malacia. He can come in and do a job. You look at Scott McTominay, he's got Premier League experience. Sancho's reinventing himself. Garnacho looks a good player. Sabitzer has come in and done a good job as well. So, yeah, United are looking a bit worrying, man. G, I'm going to add you back in, mate. I don't know if you've been listening in the background.
Yeah. I've been listening. Is that better?
Yeah, this is great, mate. This is great.
Yeah.
Do not move, man. Yeah, just plug the charger in and keep this alive, man.
plug the charger in and wait.
Plug everything in, man. But I'm looking at United's team and I'm taking them more seriously. But I think the problem fans have looking at United is because we've got these average performances in our head of the history of Shaw, the history of I don't know, Sancho, being hot and cold, the history of Bruno maybe suddenly losing it. That is kind of making me think, oh yeah, maybe they are a bit average. But actually, now looking at this team and looking at what you've done today and what you've done over the last, I think 7 wins in 10 or whatever it is, something like crazy, or 8 wins in 10 and 2 draws. I'm looking at these guys going, you know what? It's worrying. It is worrying. Like, he's improved everyone's performance levels.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Everyone's getting 10%, 20% more out because of Ten Hag. And I think if you look at it from the youth squad as well, he hasn't necessarily relied massively on them. But there's a kid called Mainu, right? Mainoo, and he's been bought in, and he just does like 12 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, right? And in a really weird way, he hasn't lost the ball in possession when he's been playing. Sabitzer, now, we had the opportunity to buy a lot of players in that point in the window, right? And we actually didn't. We went for Sabitzer and we bought him in on loan. His stats are as good as Eriksen's, if not better, this season before he even came here. So I think the
Wow.
scouting team is doing a great job.
Is that for
I
Bayern?
think.
He was putting in those sort of stats.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? I think there are some bargains to be had, and yeah, Weghorst, you're right. Everybody thought he's going to be bought in to do a Peter Crouch moment, but
Mm.
no, he has started literally every game. I think in the loan spell that we've had him. So there is a philosophy. Ten Hag does know what he's doing. I think people didn't rate him because he came from a farmers league, as he kept on saying. But right now, people are taking note, and there's still more to come from United when they
Can you
invest again
think?
in the summer.
Can you think of any manager that's come from Europe, from a lesser league, without the name, without the big clubs behind him in his CV, and had this kind of impact in football? Because I'm scratching my head, thinking which
Jose
manager.
Mourinho was the last
Yeah,
one. He came from Porto to Chelsea. He was unknown at that point after he'd just won the
Mm.
Champions League.
yeah, similar. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then that's a similar piece. But I
Mm.
don't see Ten Hag in that level. I think Ten Hag's a student of the game, and he is in the same level as somebody who wants to study Cruyff, and people like Pep also study Cruyff. So you've got to look at the sort of football they're playing as well, and I think that the issue with Ten Hag is that as soon as he starts losing, people will go, oh yeah, you know what, he had a really nice purple patch. But the reality is, it's always happened, and Ricky pointed this after the Brentford game. It's after that 8 mile run or whatever they went on that solidified the team. They knew this guy wasn't messing.
So I was reading
Um,
in the papers this week that Ten Hag came in and said to the squad indirectly, anyone who f's with me is out. Big names, anyone, Ronaldo, whoever it is, right? Anyone doesn't do what I say is going to be out the team, or potentially moved on out the club.
Mhm.
And I think it was Bruno who did this interview. You'll probably know, right?
Yep.
It was one of your players. I think it was Bruno who did this interview, and he said we were kind of, when he came in with this approach, we were kind of thinking, are you really going to do that? Are you really going to drop Ronaldo? Are you really, gonna be that fair that if you work hard you will play, or you listen and respond to what I say, then you will be in my plans. But he did it. He did it,
Yep.
and all those guys that were saying, how can you drop Ronaldo? How can you do this? How can you do that? I put myself back 4 months watching the opening few weeks of the Premier League and seeing Ten Hag, coming on looking very serious, looking very clenched face, no
Yep.
emotion. Nobody knew this was going to happen. Not you. No United fan knew this was going to happen.
No. I mean, the best
Nobody
we could
knew.
have hoped for was top four. I'll be
Exactly.
honest with you.
You've won a league.
Yeah.
You're in a title race. You're probably going to smash Real Betis. You're probably going to smash West Ham at home. And in a week's time, we'll be having the same conversation about these results on the screen. And I don't see anyone beating you in those next few games. The only one, G, is Liverpool away, mate, because
Oh, West
it's
Ham
because of the
just had a
rivalry.
massive result as well. They did beat Nottingham Forest 4-0. So let's,
I
give it
think you're
credit
being
where it's
political.
due.
I give you, credit for being politically polite and kind and everything. But let's be honest. There's no one in those next six fixtures that I think are going to take points off you, G. The way you're playing at the
I think
moment.
Liverpool could take points off us, but if it depends on which midfield turns up for Liverpool, and I think that's what it is. I think defensively they're getting more sound with Matip coming back in, and I think up front they have probably three of the best strikers that aren't scoring in the top six. So it's just one of those. We can't get carried away. We're going to win the games that are put in front of us where we can, and I think an odd bad result. What I'm trying to say is one bad result, one draw, should not chalk off what Ten Hag's all about. Ten Hag is about trying to create structure at this club, which is built on discipline and good coaching. And if the one person I want to give a massive kudos to is Benny McCarthy. Benny McCarthy has come in under the radar as our striking coach, and he has transformed the way that final third works. So there's a lot of good stuff happening at United, and not
Tell
every.
us about the umbrella, Mr. Steve McLaren. What's he doing back in Manchester? Is he?
Yeah.
I mean, like I see him, and I'm going to be honest with you, right? Because you shouldn't personally have an opinion on people that you don't
Mm.
personally know. But I look at him, and I just think he's a bit of a wet blanket, to be honest, because he's kind of been this guy that's just been around football but never really achieved anything. And he's a very good talker. He does the whole should be on radio probably with the way he speaks and everything and all the spiel. He probably could be a really good MP the way he speaks and everything. But what's he really
Yeah.
doing at United? Because I see him there now. I see him doing high fives with Ten Hag. What impact? What's his role? And tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag was really clever by bringing Steve in actually, because there's two things. One, he's got experience of the league in Holland, and he's got experience of the league in the UK. Plus, he has the ability to try and keep the players, you know, whether we like it or not, he's coached at the highest level. He speaks multiple languages, a bit like Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
And I think there's an element of trying to keep the sort of hierarchy at United happy as well. And I think he delegates some of that stuff to Steve McLaren, because nobody wants to sit in 3-hour board
What's his
meetings,
exact
right?
title? What's his exact title?
Well, he's an assistant, isn't he? He's the assistant.
Assistant.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
So, but
Umbrella coach.
from that side, yeah.
Mm.
But you've got a team there. You've got 4 core people who are sort of, circling around United's success in terms of the coaching staff, and he's a big part of it as well. So he's always been a good second in command. I think where you're probably looking at him is when he's come into managerial capacity himself. He hasn't really done it, but as a second in command, I think he's been really good. A bit like Archie Knox, and a bit like some of the really good Mike Phelan. Again, people talk about him in a derogatory way, but the
Carlos
guy's been there for
Queiroz
him.
as well, the Portuguese Carlos
Yeah.
Queiroz, wasn't he? Was yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ricky, VJ, any other questions or points you want to make about United? Do you see them dropping
No.
points?
No, I think we just saying, weren't we? That I think they're in a good position. They're definitely there in terms of the title. I wouldn't rule them out. I do think they're a slight level below the two that are fighting for the title. Yeah, I think that it's nothing but praise for them at the moment. Be interesting to see if what happens if they don't make it into the latter stage of Europa League. How is that seen? Is that seen as still a successful season or not? I guess a lot of United fans at the start, like you said, G, would have taken top 4, and that would have been a good season, right? That's progression. But you've got a cup in the bag now as well, so that's already above the expectation. I just wonder now that the expectations have been reset, and Europa League is almost we've got to win that now. We're one of the favourites to win it. So yeah, they look good at the moment. I think all United fans should be quite happy.
Yeah, we're happy for once, and we're never happy. So
I just think I think you've basically made again, like City and Arsenal, just look up that we need to be careful not drop any more points, because you guys are right behind us now. I'm just interested to hear regarding the takeover. Has there been any more news, G, from in terms of the 2 bids that have gone in, and what's the timings as to when it's all going to be confirmed? If it's confirmed, is it?
It's an interesting one, right? Because there's conspiracy theories around this as well. Like with Elliott Capital obviously coming in and saying that they don't want to take over and just give Glazers more money to, stay at the club, which kind of complicates things. The Qatari fund wants a straight buyout. They want to put cash on the table, and they want 100% ownership sort of thing, and they want the Glazers out. I think that the bit that's going to be interesting is if it goes into a bidding war. As in, what's the price of United? The more successful it is, the more it keeps winning, the more the price keeps going up. So, I don't know at what point it would get sealed, if it does get sealed. But I would say you're not looking shy of about 4 billion to sort of 5 billion, that sort of range right now.
Interesting.
Does it worry you, G, that the bids that came in? Do you think what is the game that Glazers are playing? Is this a Dutch auction? Are they just going to drive this as long as they can to get as many parties involved to basically bid it out? Or do you think that if a value is set and it's met, almost like buying a player, then they should really just say, we put our price out there, it's been met? Or do you think they're business people, they've got every right to say, actually, we want a bit more now. We didn't realize how many people will be interested in buying this club?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one, because we want them out and they know that they need to go, but it's going to be at a price that they want to do it at. And I think the problem that I've got with the Glaziers is they didn't put the 600 million down, right? They took a loan against a very small initial investment, and they keep on taking out about 25 to 30 million a year from the United fund. What this does when you get this sort of crazy bidding activity is it pushes the share price up. Every time the share price goes up, these guys make even more money. So they can play this game every year if they want, because actually what's happening is their dividends are giving them even more a few million extra. I would like to see United sold so we can carry on with the redevelopment of Old Trafford. That for me is priority one. And then sort of comes the investment in terms of the players on the pitch as well, because I thought the players are doing really well. We don't want to bring in some massive superstars just to rock the boat. That doesn't always work. The Galacticos model is not one for everybody. So yeah, I'm keen to see where it pans out. Otherwise, I think the Qatari fund is playing a dual knife game, which is if they don't buy United, they may go and actually get Spurs, and that's a very real possibility.
Who knows?
So you saw Daniel Levy on the phone when doing this Chelsea Spurs. I don't know if any of you saw that, but he was like,
I think he was
the-
trying to log into this show, mate. I did send him the link, but is he? I blocked him
Yeah,
in the end. Yeah. I was going to say, G, in terms of before we end on United, the buyout situation, Ten Hag is doing what probably the Glazers want, which is basically saying to the fans, we invested in the summer 200 million, we invested a little bit in the January window. We have a capable squad of winning a league. We have a capable squad of doing what it's doing. So
yeah,
they're almost sitting there, cigar champagne, going, do you know what? This is great. Our share price has gone up. We're at the top of every competition we're in. The fans have calmed down because the team's doing well, and that's
yeah.
what calms down fans is wins. There's nothing like a win to a
Hmm.
fan. And I just wonder if they're now sitting back thinking, we almost went out there and got a valuation of the club, theoretically going out there by
Yeah,
putting it
like an estate
up.
agent would.
Yeah,
Exactly that.
they've got a valuation. I'll put my property. Actually, no, I don't want to sell it now because I didn't realize you wanted to buy it and you wanted to buy it. And oh, wow, the market's kind of, they can play the market, being the biggest club in
Hmm.
the world.
Hmm.
So I just wonder if this is going to drag out, but we'll see what happens, mate. I mean, I guess from the United fan base's point of view, like you said, most of them want it sold. You want new
Yeah,
owners in. You want that development off the pitch as well as on the pitch because the club's
yeah.
rusted off the pitch, isn't it? The stadium's falling apart. The
It
training.
is. It's a horrific state. It'll cost you a billion to fix that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think from most United fans' feedback, and there's a human rights issue with the Qataris and money that comes from
There is,
that side of the world. Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of sort of sports washing going on with the Qataris, and I think we're just careful. I don't want this beautiful game to get away from the people that it matters to, because if it suddenly comes in and it becomes that sort of league where everybody can buy whoever that they want, and financial fair play can go out the window and all this kind of stuff. I think it will take away from the magic of sort of winning it as well. What I'd love seeing today was Rashford, coming through the academy and actually being able to collect the cup. That is what United is. It's built into the community, and we want a club, that is still part of the fabric of what the fans want.
I think the price you pay of that is potential lack of investment, and if you don't take the investment, someone else will.
Yeah,
So I think this is the question, isn't it? It's like I don't want to be owned by a foreign consortium or anything. I want to be owned by someone in this country. I want to see the guy in the stands every week. I want him to be even British, so he gets the culture of the fans. He gets the whole idea of following your local club. Even
yeah,
a Mancunian would be amazing because he's from the
yeah.
from the
Ratcliffe
community.
would be a good shout. Yeah,
Yeah, but then the problem is you get left behind. And United have money to survive. If anyone has money to survive and sustain, those high revenues is United because they've been built on success and
yeah,
good off the pitch commercial, networking, they're a global club, they're huge. They've done everything the right way, you could probably argue, they've not cut really any corners with it. But then if you don't take this investment, then you are selling the soul of the club somewhat. And I don't think you can have it both. So you can't have the community, you can't have everyone happy. And then you've just got to take the lesser of two evils.
yeah. I think United want to take their time about this because it's not just a simple thing as taking the money. Um, there's got to be a bit more to that, and I think we want to see the vision as well, from the people who want to buy us, because some of them have already said they want to follow the Man City model, and try and build into the sort of community with the men's team, the women's team, the training facilities, outreach, education, all of those things. And I think that will go a long way to try and preserve what a great club we are. So yeah.
Mm.
just do it.
Ricky and Rija, you both had experience of it. I was going to say, if you think it's a catch-22, because you both had experience of being bought out by rich owners.
I think for
Super
City,
Rich.
it's completely changed us, obviously with all the success. But I think with the Arabs, they are investing back in the community, and they've developed our training ground. We've got the ladies team, got the the under 12s and the younger team. So it's actually benefited in that sense. It's been like 10 years. We've got a good window of of time period, and we can see on and off the pitch the redevelopment. So I think it's been a great. And even Thaksin Shinawatra, when he took us over, he didn't do anything for the community. But when the Arabs came in, they completely changed the approach. So it's benefited both ways for us.
Yeah, same for Chelsea. Obviously, when Abramovich pumped in his millions, he didn't just develop the first team. He went on to develop the ladies' game, and Chelsea are one of the top clubs in women's football. With a manager who seems to just do it year in year out. So that's filtered through to the women's team and the academy as well. I think we all know about the Chelsea academy. I think you can argue what is it there for. I think part of it, of course, is player development that should be coming into first team, but a lot of it is there to develop players that are then sold on, actually, and that's how they make a lot of money as well.
Yeah. I think your points, the points you guys make, are important because you need investment to invest in the club, real investment to invest in the women's football, the community itself, create jobs, create an environment where the local people benefit, even the non-footballing people of Manchester or whichever area, the local people should be the first people to benefit, not just fans, because the club is a part of the community and it's almost the pillar of sport. In this country, football is so big now in this country. There is no other sport that competes. But what I would love to see is the homegrown rule reviewed, because what
Yeah.
I do want is the Harry Kanes and Rashfords to still be here. But the next versions of those guys should have the same opportunity that Rashford has had, that Harry Kane's had at Spurs, because we haven't had billions yet lying around, waiting to be spent on the next world-class European star. So I think that homegrown rule is really important, and maybe they need to tweak that and give it a bit more emphasis, because what we don't want is the game in this country sort of just blocking routes to academy football ever making it to the highest level. And like I've got, like, Rinks has been on this show before. I think it was episode 3, was on his little daughter. I say little daughter, she's 11 now. She's, without giving too much away, she's getting into professional football now, women's football, because women's football is what men's football was a long time ago. Didn't have the money, the fans, it's a smaller beast. But the worry is that I think the Premier League has a hot potato on their hands, because whilst all this money's coming in, how do they keep that communal link active with young boys and girls that want to play for Manchester United or Arsenal
Yeah.
or whichever club it is? And I think that's going to
And
be the balancing
it
act.
affects the national game as well, Josh. Right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when we don't get Rico Lewis's of this world, and we don't get Rashfords and the Fodens
Foden's,
and
yeah,
Saka's of this world, then we're at a loss, because actually, Jude Bellingham's a classic example of losing a talent to a German league for him to be
Sancho.
developed. Sancho's another one. And even Bellingham's brother, I think, is really good. So there's lots of these sort of examples where maybe the players have left the UK shores a bit too early, and certainly from the English Premier League, we don't benefit from that either, right? Because them playing with the best players and the best league in the world is only going to make them better and give us a chance on the national level as well. So I think Chelsea is a really interesting one, because so many academy graduates, could have maybe had a bit more blooding in terms of the first team, and who knows what kind of players we would have got out of that. So even now, I look at Conor Gallagher as an example of, if he had more game time, with a different world class coach, where could he have got to? So it is interesting. It is interesting, and I agree with you. I think we should have at least 5, homegrown players in every team, and that should be enforced.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, VJ, on Mount and Gallagher, they're probably players that look at this Chelsea situation and think, God, where do I get a year or two to really show what I can do. At Palace, Gallagher was doing it. At Chelsea, Mount's been hot and cold. There is a risk, isn't there, of some of these youngsters, Foden being the exception, that they can't keep up with these superstars coming through the door, and maybe they get lost in that process a bit with developing their own game, having so many different managers. It's a bit of a whirlwind, isn't it? As a young player, trying to sort of get your feet into a Premier League
Yeah.
team that's challenging.
Yeah, I think if I was in their position, I would be worried. Currently at Chelsea, simply buying loads of players, and maybe there isn't a clear vision on what their pathway is, which may have been more clearer with the previous regime. And that shows a little bit in the contract negotiations for Mount. It's not done. It looks like it's going to get done, but until it's done, it's not done, right? So it's still up in the air. And Gallagher was 50-50 in this window, potentially going out on loan or even being sold. I mean, there was loads of interest for Gallagher, and rightly so. But he did stay, and Mount, we hope, will sign a contract. So there must be some discussions in the background that have their futures, that they're part of the plan somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I think if I was in the academy now and I'm probably looking up at the first team, I'm thinking, yeah, I ain't going to get a chance in this team, am I? And they're probably already looking to move to other clubs to make it.
Yeah, I think they're not moving abroad. Sorry, Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's happened at City. Like we say, Foden, yeah, but there's players like Lavia and Adozi. They've both gone to Southampton. They're really good players, and they've got no chance against the players that we have. So it's sad to see, but it's reality, isn't it? It's credit to Foden though to keep up with the likes of KDB and Mahrez and everyone. But yeah, it is really sad, I would say.
Yeah, it's the thing is, football is a results business, isn't it? I mean, we all know with Chelsea, Potter's only been there for a while. He's already under pressure because he's not winning games. But that's the state of football as it is right now. It is not okay not to win football matches. It is not okay not to be competing in all of the big titles and cup competitions. We just talked about United at length there, and they've come on a long journey. And finally, they've won a cup, and they're very, very happy about it, and rightly they should be. But it was not okay that they weren't doing that for the last X number of years. So you've got a balance. There's a balance somewhere, and unfortunately, the development of homegrown players is not prominent enough. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think I'll ever see Harry Kane as a Spurs fan. I'll never see a player come through the ranks and win nothing so far. Let's hope he can do one day. But become the Premier League's all-time goal scorer. I think and it's not done yet. Alan Shearer's record sits there, but for Tottenham, he beat Jimmy Greaves. He broke Jimmy Greaves' record last week, the week before, and he'll probably going to do Alan Shearer. And that will go down, and I'll probably be telling youngsters in 20 years' time that there was this guy called Harry Kane, and he came through the ranks. And likewise, we had Wayne Rooney at Everton and came through the ranks and went on to win every trophy in that was available. He won the Champions League. Yeah, he did win the Champions League. So he won everything.
He did, yeah.
He
99.
won everything. Yeah, he didn't win the World Cup. That's the only one. But that's national football. That's a different conversation. But we'll see what happens with that, guys. It's good to
Chuck John Terry in there.
John Terry, yeah. John Terry's another one. Yeah. From academy to worldwide superstar. At the moment, I think Rashford's the one flying the flag, G, in terms of he is the best British player in the Premier League right now. Would you argue?
I would say on current form, yes.
Saka's up there as a youngster as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think
Saka's slightly
there,
behind
but I
him,
think I think Rashford's just that point ahead right now. If it was a boxing fight, then he would win it on points.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we see more youngsters come through. Rashford's a local boy. He came through West London, not far from where we live here. And I drive past his school most days because I have to go down that road. So yeah, it's nice, man. It's nice that he went to.
You mean Saka?
Saka, yeah. Yeah, West London,
I was
Greenford.
thinking Rashford comes from Gorton.
I was going to say you said Rashford, but yeah,
Oh, did I say
we
Rashford?
figured it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I'm thinking of Hash.
Yeah, he's a Greenswood boy, isn't he? Yeah.
Hash.
What,
Hash
what,
is
what,
yeah.
why are you driving past his school? Is the question that I had.
At 3 o'clock, mate. Yeah, that's listen, G, mate, you need to I need to stop talking to you. Right. Okay, so let's go to our next game, guys, on this list. So we've now dealt with the Man United trophy. Well done, you won. Congratulations, G. The treble's on, mate.
Get over it, basically, yeah,
We'll
and move
review
on to
that
the next
next.
game.
Yeah, we'll review that next week, mate. And good luck to you in the fixtures. But now you're going to take your United hat off, and we're going to talk about Arsenal. Hash couldn't make it today. Arsenal went away to Leicester on Saturday, the early kickoff. All eyes were on Arsenal. Will they slip up? Will Leicester do a job on them? And just my thoughts before I hand the mic around. I thought Arsenal were amazing. They controlled the game. They had all the best chances. I think there was one chance from Leicester that I remember, which was a shot, which was 25-yard shot, which wasn't even on target. So I think hats off to Arsenal for winning. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't see them losing. And the way they're playing and the way they're just going game by game and just basically beating what's coming in front of them. That's 2 away results. Aston Villa, second half, amazing. Leicester, the whole 95 minutes, they were amazing. And now look at Arsenal as serious title contenders. And I wasn't saying that 2-3 weeks ago. I was thinking this is going to peter out at some point. They're going to get a couple of draws along the way. So I'm going to bring up the team. And we'll start with you, VJ, mate, and we'll work our way down, mate. What did you make of that result?
Yeah, very good result, wasn't it, for Arsenal? It got a bit tricky for them, didn't they? They scored and then it was ruled out, but they scored again, and it stood this time. But yeah, again, Arteta made some changes. He put Trossard up front, which seemed to work well. And we spoke on the show a couple of weeks back, or a few weeks back, that Arsenal shouldn't be celebrating getting their B targets, but actually their B targets are working as well as their A targets, aren't they? So they managed to get Trossard in. He's repaying the faith that they put in him. It was only a 1-0 at the end, but I think these are the games they just need to sort of, when you're going for the title, they just need to grind out the results. On some days they may not be the best. I didn't see the game. Obviously, it's a 3 o'clock game, and I haven't caught up on Match of the Day yet. But from listening to BT Sport while it was on, Arsenal were well in control. Everything was going their way effectively, and they looked like serious title contenders for sure.
Ricky, I bet you watched that, mate, or caught up with that.
Yeah. I thought Arsenal were there. I was really hoping they'd slip up, but they showed control, didn't they? And Trossard, played really well in that game. I've been looking at Arsenal's fixtures, and their game in hand is this Wednesday, 1st of March against Everton, isn't it? So it's at I believe it's at home.
Yeah.
And I think with Everton losing at home, who was it, to Villa 2-0? I think Everton are really going to go for this because they're fighting for their survival. But I just can't see Everton beating Arsenal at home, and that's their game in hand. And if they win that, it's 5 points clear. I've been looking at the fixture list, like for like City and Arsenal. With Arsenal later on down, I think it's 6 games away from the season ending. They've got City away, Chelsea home, Newcastle away. Those 3 games on the bounce. If they can get through that, because after that, Man City got Everton, Chelsea, and Brentford on the last day of the season. So Arsenal got the harder 3 fixtures in a row. If they get through that, that's going to be something really amazing. But from here on in, I still cannot call it. I just think City might just get caught up in that Champions League fight. If they get knocked out, they'll be able to focus on the league. But if City go all the way to the final and then end up losing it, which is what I think will happen, Arsenal are going to, I'm predicting on Man City will get into the final without even playing the RB Leipzig, the return leg. But yeah, I just can't see Arsenal slipping up anymore. I was really, really hoping they lose to Leicester, but they just look too in control. But it all comes back to squad again. They get an injury, 2-3 injuries. City, we'll come on to the City game later on. We played 2-3 players that usually start every single match and they didn't play. And if Arsenal get a few injuries, then it'll be interesting to see how they come out of that.
Yeah, G.
Yeah, I think Ricky spot on. I think the squad depth is going to play a real big, part in it. I mean, if I was Arsenal, I would still be worried. I know it sounds crazy. Everton is their bogey team. Recently, they got beaten as well. And I think if you look at that game against Leicester, it was only a 1-0. Now, yes, you may control it for periods of time, but it still kind of harks back to that same discussion we had a couple of weeks ago, where we said they don't have that sort of killer finish in them, and that's the thing. I think that those are the sort of games that could easily end up in draws. I think if Leicester were halfway decent team in terms of finishing the goals and Jamie Vardy wasn't, pulling his pension, you'd have a different team. You might have a different result as well. And I think these are the sort of things where if I'm Arsenal, I'm going to be kicking myself if I don't win this league because I didn't invest in the January transfer window. So I think, Mudryk, I would say if he was at the Arsenal team right now, he would have scored by now. Is that fair to say with the
Yeah,
amount of chances that have
definitely,
been
Yeah.
created?
for sure.
Yeah. So these are the sort of things that hopefully don't come back to rue for Arsenal. If City get to the final of the Champions League, it is the one that they want to win. It is the sort of thing that will complete the trophy cabinet. So they'll happily take second in the winning the Champions League, I think. Because it could come down that Arsenal unravel in those last three games and City pip them to the title. Very, very possible. It's happened before with the top four and Spurs finishing above Arsenal in that game. So yeah, I think it comes down to mentality and it comes down to finishing. And I think any injuries and Arsenal are in a right mix. So yeah, I still think City could do the damage, just depending on when they exit the Champions League.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
I was gonna say on the squad depth thing, City definitely win it on that hands down, don't they? Because you're playing a different defense every week, can't you, Ricky? You literally put in, three out. You then
Yeah.
swap Grealish for if Mahrez is on. You then swap around Alvarez, and it's like he's got three or four different ways to win a game with those players. Whereas I feel like Arsenal only have one way to do this, and that could be their Achilles heel, where teams do suss out how to stop Arsenal, and they don't have the options off the bench to turn it around, like the striker we've been talking about, or the false nine. Nketiah, is that Nketiah whole hype has gone now. Um, who else do you bring off the bench whilst Jesus is still injured or recovering, and he's going to take his time getting back in because you don't want to rush back from an injury like that. So I just wonder if Arsenal's weakness is the fact that this is their team and this is their formation and they don't have anything else apart from this.
yeah, I think that's a valid point. I think there isn't. I think squad depth is pretty much non-existent in the Arsenal camp. I mean, Jesus is out, so they brought in Nketiah. Nketiah's got benched for Trossard the other day. That's it. That's as far back as it goes. But I look at Arsenal, and I think that's a valid point that you guys are talking about here. Is that how much of Arsenal being in the title race is City letting them, if you know what I mean, right? City are seasoned winners. They've won this competition many, many times, 4 times in the last 5 seasons. They know how to clean up. I just wonder if, one of their eyes is on that Champions League. And I think to your point is if they exit that, they're going to go full force into the league, right? Because that's what they want to win. But I think they're so focused on the Champions League. And I just wonder if Man City were on it, would Arsenal be where they are right now? And I think also that this game in hand that they've got, which they play on Wednesday, which you've got on screen, I think they've got to get that game done, because at the moment it's always about, Arsenal got a game in hand. Arsenal got a game in hand. When they go level and they're on level games, then, it's just pure points in it. There's no game in hand for anyone. And I think the mentality of the City players will start to come through because they've been there and done that. And I just wonder is when they start to get a point or two in between, that Arsenal may start to have a wobble, because we are still in February. And we're not in a traditional February at the moment. We are, because of the World Cup, a few weeks behind that.
I mean, there's a very simple way to play against Arsenal, right? Which is you just drop 20 yards behind where you normally would hold your high line, and you basically take Saka and Martinelli out of the game because you don't let them run in behind you, and then Nketiah is just man marked out of the game, and that's it. And you know, if I can tell you that there are Premier League managers who've worked that out, and then they know that the only way you're going to get beaten is by a worldie from Odegaard or Xhaka, and you would take those odds because you know not everyone wants to play fast flowing, free flowing football against Arsenal and give them the opportunity to play. This is not FIFA. So
Yeah.
I think this is where it's going to come a cropper for Arsenal, and they could quite easily draw the game against Everton, pile the pressure on themselves. City go on a run, and they could find themselves needing to win on the last day of the season to win the title and not do it. And psychologically, that would destroy them.
Yeah, I mean, the next 4 games, Arsenal got easier. They've got Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Crystal Palace, whereas we've got Newcastle and Liverpool. I know we shouldn't look at the last day of the season, but we've got Brentford away. They've got Wolves at home. So I know it's like a sandwich. Like the big games are coming up in like near the endish kind of middle-ish kind of bit, but the next 4 games are quite crucial because I'd rather take the points and play the easy teams. And I'm just writing off these teams, by the way. I don't mean to be, but what I'm trying to say is that on paper, when you're looking at Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Crystal Palace, Arsenal's next 4 fixtures versus Man City's Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Liverpool, and Southampton. You know, I'll take Arsenal's fixtures any day rather than the City ones.
But
to play
would you? But would you?
Liverpool.
But would
Well,
you?
like
But why?
I would want, yeah, I would want the points up on right now. I just want to grab the 3 points now rather than face the big teams like in Newcastle and Liverpool, coming up in our next.
I think Newcastle are crestfallen. I think it's a really good time to play them.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the thing. They all want to kick on in the league, but I don't think that they've got another gear to go into, unfortunately. And I think you can start seeing Newcastle now slipping down the table. And you know, you're probably going to take advantage of that. To be honest, I think you know, Crystal Palace hit and miss. You know, who's going to score for them if Zaha's not there? So it really depends.
These fixtures here, these 6 fixtures, guys, you've got 3 games. 3 days. There's a game every 3 days. So I think Arsenal obviously have not been in the Europa League because they went through to this. They skipped this round. They came out the League Cup, and I think they're at the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken, guys. I think they're at the FA Cup. Yeah, they
Yeah,
threw it
they
at
went
Man
out
City.
to
Yeah, to Man
City.
City.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Arteta's obviously, focusing on the Premier League, which I don't blame him at all. It's been too long. It's been 20 plus years. But this Europa League fixture here, Sporting Arsenal, I just wonder if he will put that first 11 out there that's going to play Fulham away on Sunday and come back on a Thursday night, which is always awkward because you've got Friday one session and then you're traveling the next day, or it's not a lot of traveling, it's London anyways, but that day doesn't count as training. So I just wonder if this Sporting away trip, that will tell us a lot about whether he believes his squad is deep enough to stay in the Premier League title race whilst playing in Europe, whilst playing every 3 days. And if he throws this tie, I think it could go down as one of the best decisions. Well, it will do if they win it, because people are talking about him throwing the FA Cup, and they're still in this race, and they're still ahead, and they've still got the game in hand. If he throws the Europa League, there'll be fans that say, "What are you doing?" Like that's another way to win a trophy, a decent trophy as well. But I think most fans would understand him putting out the kids, because if you get any injuries to those centre backs, if Saliba goes out or Gabriel goes out, I don't know who comes in. Rob Holding, does Ben White come back in? I mean, now you're talking like a championship team. You lose the likes of Zinchenko to a dodgy tackle in Portugal, and then you're back to the Tomiyasu. You got Tierney, obviously, who's been hit and miss. So I just wonder now if Arteta's going to look at these fixture lists, and I'm sure he looks at them every day. And then him and his team sit down and they look at it and say, right, win, don't give a crap. We'll take a draw there, win there, and doing all the mathematics to keep that 5 point buffer until they play Man City. Because if they keep that buffer until they play Man City, and if they do the unthinkable, which is beat you guys on home turf, then I think we're looking at it going, okay, these guys, it's a real deal over here. Then they've got to go Anfield, which is a difficult place. They never win there. And they've got to go away to Newcastle, which you guys just mentioned, which at the moment, you never know. This loss might galvanize them. Just the whole crowd thing being at Wembley, the whole day out. Yes, you didn't win it, but it might galvanize. It might make them hungrier. They might want to give something back to the fans because they are on the edge of literally just going, just smashing it out there in terms of what they can achieve over the next 5 years. So I wonder if this was like Newcastle of old and they'd got to the final, it could be a real deflating thing because you're like, shit, when are we going to get this opportunity again? But Newcastle know they've got the backing now to get into these finals over the next 5, 6 years. So I reckon this will galvanize them. I think this will potentially give them the boost and a little bit of taste of success that they missed out on. And you look at clubs that get to finals, and Liverpool's a classic example in the Champions League. They got a taste against Madrid, and then they went back and won it because they wanted to really get their hands on it. So I'm not sure Newcastle is a total write-off just yet, but who knows? Time will tell. On Arsenal, then, any other points, lads? You wanna discuss?
I just think with Arsenal, I mean, they're focusing all on the Premier League, and rightly so. They haven't won it for 20 years, and they want to definitely go and win that. But they have spent a load of money. Arteta's been there for a number of years now. He's been building this squad.
400 million.
Why shouldn't they be? Yeah, exactly. Last time we looked, I think they were like, okay, Chelsea are always going to be at top of that graph at the moment, but they sit in like third something in terms of spend over the last 4 or 5 years. He's had enough time with this squad. Why have they only got a squad that's we're talking about being not deep enough? Why are they not going for the Premier League? Why are they not going for the Europa League at the same time? Fine, the domestic cups, you could probably say, okay, we're out of them. We won't focus on them. But a team like Arsenal should be, shouldn't they? I mean, I can understand a Newcastle. They haven't been in this position for years, and suddenly they're kind of like, oh, wow, look, we've got to go for the Premier League. That's the one we want. Arsenal, in my opinion, should be going for both competitions. Just my opinion.
I think, Josh, the only thing I would say to what you said about the Europa League is this: winning breeds the confidence. So to put a team out that might potentially lose to Sporting, then to go and lose your next game, or to lose against Everton, I think that would not be a crisis at Arsenal, but the crisis of confidence starts to kick in, because Fergie used to say, like, winning basically attracts more winning, right? Like, you don't put out a team to lose, and you certainly don't try and game manage something which essentially causes you to lose. So I think if he's smart, what he will do is what Ten Hag's doing right now, which is rotate his best players at 60 minutes after they're already on their way to a result. And that way you can still get a bit of a rest for, the Zinchenko's and the Martinellis of this world. But if he tries to put out a team which gets absolutely hammered, and then he goes and loses, I agree with VJ. I think he is probably one of the luckiest managers to have gone under the radar with the third highest spend in the Premier League and not achieved anything. And that's a reality. So he's got to get that fixed.
He spent money. He spent it well. You'd argue Ben White. Most people had said, "Is Ben White worth the 50 mil?" I just put up these numbers for you guys again, so you can see. But Ben White was an expensive one. The other one was Ramsdale. People were saying, "Is Ramsdale worth what Arsenal paid for him?" Which I think it was 50
30
million.
odd.
Was it 30? Okay, sorry, yeah. So it's 30 odd mil. But I think he was from Sheffield United or wherever he was from. It's from the Championship.
But Sheffield United were laughing, right, at that point, because he came from a Championship, with the highest record of any goalkeeper from coming out of the Championship. And this is the thing. I think Arsenal have bought okay, but then they've bought some right duds as well, right? Lokonga, he's off at Crystal Palace.
Soares.
So they don't always get it right.
I don't think many clubs get it right anyways, always. I don't think many do anyways. I think the success rate is 70-80% for a good, when you look back every 4 or 5 years and you think, right, all the money we spent, we got 7 out of 10 right. We'll take that. That's not a problem. We have a margin of 3. But I think back to the point of, do you play your best team in the Europa League and then pull them off, like basically stay in the tie, bring them back to the Emirates and then do a job on them? I agree with that. That does make sense. But playing every 3 days, the team's young enough. It's not like they're a 28 20-year-old team, and they've got some old boys at the back or whatever. So they've got the legs for it. But my worry, well, it's not a worry, mate. I'm a Spurs fan. I don't worry for Arsenal at all.
I
But
was about to say, what happened to you?
no, I know. You know what I mean? Probably hanging around with too many Arsenal fans. But when I speak to them, I sense fear in them where they won't say it, and they'll say game at a time, and they'll say, yeah, we still got 35 points or whatever it is. But inside, they're thinking to themselves, we're not going to get this opportunity. We're unlikely to get this opportunity once Chelsea, Liverpool, and United keep doing what they're doing, and Newcastle somehow enter that race. So I think they're looking at it almost like, it's the perfect storm. That the big boys, some of them are sleeping right now. They're sleeping giants in Chelsea and Liverpool. Man City are still trying to work out what their first 11 is and how they go about, managing the biggest gap in Pep's career at Man City compared to still winning this competition that they do pretty much every year. So I think they see these gaps, and I think Arteta must in his solo, when he's on his own and he's thinking, reflecting on the weekend and reflecting on the fixtures. I don't think Arsenal will have this opportunity next season or the season after, because it's
No.
only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Liverpool will sort that midfield out. Man United will bulk up, if not more, and Chelsea will keep going. And I haven't even mentioned Spurs. God knows what we'll do in the window, but we might do something decent. Who knows? So if I'm Arteta, I'm looking at this saying, screw the Europa League. With respect to the Europa League, screw the Europa League, because winning the Europa League and missing out on the Premier League doesn't make sense. So why stay in it? Do you know what I mean? You stay in something to win it at this stage. But I also understand what you're saying from a winning breeds winning perspective. But if I'm going out and playing kids, and I'm literally saying to my squad, listen, we're not interested in this. I'm going to play the kids, and this is your chance to show me what you can do. Like the League Cup almost, when a lot of the big teams play in the League Cup, their kids, Man City have done it over the years. I wonder if Arteta now says, right, some of these fringe players that I don't really know what you can do, I'm happy to come out of the competition, but to see you over 90 minutes home and away against a decent team in Sporting, I will play you to show me what you can do, to give you a chance to get into that first 11. So use it as a positive, regardless of losing and coming out that competition. Or he goes for it, and if they don't win the title race, which I don't think is going to be completed until the last couple of weeks of the season, he then looks at the Europa League and says, right, let's just go and win that now, because then we've given the fans something at the end of the season to cheer about, because otherwise everyone will call it a flop. And everyone will say,
I don't think they're winning the Europa League.
With Man United.
Exactly. So I'm kind of putting my hat in there and saying, United have got a better chance of.
I don't know, man. I think United will. I think Arsenal would give United a good game any day of the week.
I'm not doubting that, but I genuinely think right now, if it was played, we would give them a good game as well, and we could potentially win it.
Oh,
so,
yeah, brilliant game. Both legs as well, weren't they? Home and away.
Yeah. So I would say Arteta is, if he loses the Europa League and he then goes on to lose the league, do Arsenal get rid of him?
No, never.
No.
No
You
chance,
see, so this is the point of Arsenal, that you can't have that sort of level of failure and level of investment. You wouldn't do it in a job, and you shouldn't be able to do it in his. I think that's where I come a cropper from that.
Yeah, agreed. And the fact that I know what you say, Josh, about Chelsea, Liverpool, some of these teams are sleeping giants. Indeed, they are. And Arsenal is fully awake, right? But they should be one of those teams, right? We should be talking about them coming again next year, even if they finish second this year, coming again next year, challenging the Cities, Chelsea's, the Uniteds, the Liverpools. But we're not. We're kind of thinking this is their one shot and then they're done, right?
Giving them a bit of special treatment because it's Arteta and it's a project and he's young and he's never managed. I know what you mean. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I just think what he's shown in a short space of time, which is getting rid of some dead, egos, whatever you want to call it, getting rid of the bad apples, refreshing that squad, and then going on this run and showing everyone that it's not, it wasn't till Christmas. I think Arteta's shown enough in these last 6 months to basically have this job for the next couple of years at least, even if he does not win the title, does not win the Europa League, because getting a manager to play football that's attractive, bring in youngsters, and produce results It's very difficult in this state. This you can go and get a great CV, but he might not bring in the youngsters. You can go and get in a young manager who brings in youngsters, but doesn't bring results, and that could be Potter, for example. Bringing in young players. Arteta does all of it, and he's probably from an all-round point of view, in terms of points to pounds spent. If there was a calculation of points to pound, he's definitely towards the top end in terms of the return on points on the money he's spent. But over the last 5 years, 400 million is not a joke. 400 million is not a joke, and he has been given the money to spend. And a lot of people do say Arteta's this, he's amazing, and yeah, he has been amazing. But to your point, gents, you are right. He has been given money to do his job. It's not like he's done it on a budget. He's done it with good, good 50 million here, 40 million, 30 million there. But we all know that 50, 30 million these days can be a complete waste of money as well. So we have to give credit to recruitment at Arsenal, because not only have they spent 400 million, but they've bought in players on 100 grand a week, 80 grand a week, 40 grand a week in Saliba, Martinelli, Saka from the academy. They've done it in such a way that I think they've almost shown a different way of doing it, rather than just buying superstars and constantly bringing in those 200 grand a week, as 250 grand a week. Because they bought in Jesus and he's their top earner, and they bought in Zinchenko, and then they've really, I think they've done great. I think they've done great, chaps. But you are right. He has spent a lot of money, and Arsenal should be challenging for the title every year. And sometimes people give Arsenal this special TLC because of Arteta, and maybe people need to start being a little bit more demanding from Arsenal, because they are a big club. They are a big club. Cool. Any other points, guys? I mean, I've got the fixtures up. I don't know where they'll drop points, but maybe Fulham away is a banana skin, and I think the Liverpool game away, Crystal Palace. Nah,
I
can't
think
see
I
it.
think it's your relegation. I think it's the relegation one. It's been mentioned it before. It's those
Everton.
ones that will be at the bottom of the
Bournemouth.
table, fighting for their lives, that will pull a result out the bag that's unexpected, like a Southampton versus Chelsea. Although to be fair, that's expected these days. But this one of these teams where, I think it will be one of those relegation battling sides. We'll pull a result out.
See what happens, mate. We'll see what happens. They at the moment are proving everyone right or wrong, whichever fence and side you sit on.
I think just being a City fan though, like we're chasing Liverpool and this season chasing Arsenal, I would still rather chase Arsenal rather than to be chasing a Liverpool. And that may sound very controversial.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've done this before, Liverpool have done this before, but Arsenal, they obviously did it like 20 years ago or so. But this is still very new to them. They've got a new manager, young players. As a City fan, I'd prefer being in this position than when we're chasing the Uniteds or Liverpools in the past. And this is all recorded, so at the end of the season, if we don't lose, I'll probably have egg on my face. But I feel at the moment, like I feel a bit comfortable still. I still feel a bit more comfortable chasing Arsenal.
It changes week by week, Rick. So whatever you say this week, is going to change next. It's like the weather; you can't predict this kind of stuff. But to that point,
which says a lot, right, Josh? What Ricky just said says so much about Arsenal.
Exactly.
Right, that he's not actually fearing them as much as a team that was sitting 9th in the league last week. Right.
But I think he means in the context of having won.
The title chase. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he's right, because I don't see Arsenal having this sort of finish as they have had to start. I can't see them finishing without losing points.
Yeah, I think, look, there's the other argument to that debate is they're fearless. They know nothing. They have no scars. They have no pain, no trauma. They are going out there like a bunch of mates. And every team has to win it once at some point. United have shown that with youngsters. So I think there's two schools of thought on it.
Yeah.
There's definitely the argument of haven't been there, done it. Give us 3 weeks. We'll see you in April and see how things are then. And then the other school of thought is, what do they fear? There is nothing to fear. They've not failed. They've not failed before. They bottled, you could say, the last 3 games of last season against Tottenham, and we got into the Champions League place. But they're showing no signs of it. But we'll see what happens, because as the pressure cranks up, that's when we see real cracks. And
they don't have that.
Guys, it's not there yet. The pressure yet. It's like a 6 out of 7 out of 10, if that.
Yeah, they don't have that seduction in the Champions League, whereas we're like getting seduced into that game of Champions League and taking our eye off. So that's going to be a key factor as well. But yeah, really interesting season, I think, to kind of go into. It's the fast finish now, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, lads. Let's move on to your team, Ricky. Man City doing the business away on the south coast. A nice day down to Bournemouth Beach and back.
Yeah.
You were saying to me this time last week that you're worried that if Arsenal win, and they did 1-0, even though it was just one, that potentially that 5 o'clock kickoff, the whole idea of sort of having to pull a result out with the Pep issues he's having with who he selects and what team he goes with. But mate, it's all
Yeah,
history now, mate. You just
it was
got you.
great.
It was typical City, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I saw the starting lineup. So obviously Edison in goal, then Ake, Akanji, Diaz, Lewis. Then we had Gundo and Rodri in the middle, and Foden, Grealish, Alvarez, and Haaland. And I saw, Akanji and Ake in defence. I thought, what the hell's he doing? And Alvarez and Foden, no KDB or no Mahrez, because Mahrez has been one of our star players this season. And the formation absolutely worked a treat, like with Alvarez in the middle and Haaland up front. I think Rico Lewis did amazing. I don't know if you saw the game, but like he is playing like the way that Cancelo would play, like go in from defense into the midfield, going into the midfield to allow Gundogan to go out and just do what he's doing. And Gundogan, he came off, I think, at 50, 60 minutes and still got man of the match because he just, our captain, like great performance. But he allowed Gundo to kind of just really play and to feed the ball into like the channels and feed it into like Alvarez and Haaland. So overall, the formation was absolutely spot on from a City perspective. And I think Nathan Ake, like the reason why he played him is because obviously he was Bournemouth, his old team, and he came off on the 70th minute, and he got a standing ovation from the away fans as well. Sorry, obviously the Bournemouth home fans, but overall, it was a really great performance. I think for me, the key highlights again were very authoritative. So we this time scored 4 goals. We should have scored 4 goals against Forest. With Haaland, like he's broken a record now. So like he scored 27 goals, has beaten Aguero's record. So that was really great to see, like the highest scoring Man City player in a season, which is really good to see. We've maintained a 100% record against Bournemouth. So overall, like, I feel sorry for them, but we scored 40 goals versus their 5 goals, and we've beaten Watford and Bournemouth with Pep Guardiola in charge. He's maintained 100% records against both teams, so that was really good to see there as well. I think Phil Foden was fantastic. It was his 100th game for Man City, and I think leaving him off for the last, I think 5 to 6 games, and him coming in fresh, it just felt like a new signing. Like he was brilliant. The assists that he had, I think he created 7 chances in terms of assists, and his goal at the end was fantastic as well. Like real leadership qualities there. I struggle to think how he's still, like, I don't know, 22, 23 years old. He's doing fantastic. I think for me, Rico Lewis was just brilliant. He's just not scared to kind of go in for the challenges and moving up into the midfield. And I think just overall for me, the confidence that he's getting from Pep Guardiola to start these games and to have that reliability is really, really good to see. Yeah, so I think overall a really good game. We easily deserved it. My only hunch, I would say, was the fact that we didn't keep a clean sheet, and I think that is troublesome because the fact that we're winning 4-0 and we just switch off. The last 20 minutes, Bournemouth could have scored 2 goals, and that would have been quite dangerous. If it was another team, they would have been, and if it was only like 3-0 and they'd come back 1 or 2 goals, that would have been quite difficult. So I just think that our defense is still, like, and the person that made the mistake was Ruben Diaz. You would not expect him. I know he's just come back from injury, but that's my only hunch with that game at the end. The fact that we let in that goal was a bit disappointing. I think Jack Grealish did he played really well, but unfortunately for him, all the play was on the other side on Foden, and with Rico Lewis playing on that right, Foden and Alvarez and Rico, that's where the possession was, and that's why Jack Grealish. It was a bit of more of a quieter game, but you could see on the pitches running around. The energy levels were fantastic to see. He did get subbed off around the 70th minute. but I just couldn't fault anyone on the pitch for City. A really,
Why
really
does
good
he keep
performance.
changing the back, Ricky? What's the reason? Is it fatigue? Is it just, I don't know? Is he keeping everyone happy? What's the primary reason for him changing out the back so much?
Yeah, so I think Nathan Ake, he played because it was Bournemouth was his old team, and I think Nathan Ake, he's going to be getting a new contract, and I think they're going to pay him an additional 80 grand. I think I do feel nervous about Ake. I don't know why. I don't know if it's his hairstyle or I don't know something. I just find there's something about him that just makes me feel that
Weighing
he's a
him
bit like
down.
it's a bit like this. I don't know if you remember this done and done for us. Like
Yeah.
back in the day, they used to always be a liability, and there's just something about City in our defense. There's always going to be someone that's going to let the ball through the kind of gaps. I think for me, it's like Ruben Diaz, Laporte. I think Akanji's been superb. Like he's come in and he's mold.
Unknown,
Pep
isn't he?
mod.
Just
Yeah,
what's the
exactly.
story with that?
Switzerland.
Like, is that like one of those
He was
signings where,
by he was
yeah,
Bayern Munich. So sorry, yeah.
mm,
So he's come from the same team as Dortmund. He's come from Dortmund, same team as
mm,
Haaland. They were teammates,
mm,
and in the World
okay,
Cup, it's with Switzerland. He's a
mm,
decent player. Come in to kind of just help out because Laporte and Diaz were always kind of injury prone. But I think he's quite solid. I think he's reliable. He doesn't make any mistakes. Quite tall. Good height for the defense. But I think for me, the player on the screen, I think for me, Nathan Ake, I just find it. I basically like clench my teeth when he's got the ball, but he's last 4 or 5 games he's done really well, and I think that's why they're going to give him a new contract.
I think bearing in mind the opposition, you can get away with these kind of selections. You know, it's Bournemouth away with respect.
Yeah,
You can carry an average performance from a Ake or an Akanji because you've got so much firepower up front that you can let a goal in, and as you did, you won 4-1 on the day.
yeah, and,
But
and Kevin De Bruyne didn't even play. I know because with
yeah,
RB Leipzig, he was injured and he was just come back. So like Pep just wanted to give him 5-10 minutes of a run around at the end.
yeah,
But the fact that we didn't, that's the beauty. Man City versus Arsenal, we can rest some of our big players like Mahrez
this is
and
it
KDB, and
when
for the
it
next
counts.
game, yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have fresh legs.
But you are in a massive competition in the Champions League, so bearing in mind Arsenal aren't, and Arsenal might throw that competition. There's no chance of Pep not prioritizing the Champions League. And do you think
Yeah,
if he had a choice, he would take the Champions League over the Premier League?
yeah. So like, I know what I'll do. I'll go for the Champions League. I think Pep would as well. But the fact that we won the Premiership and it's like a marathon. Like to win the
Mm,
Premiership was such a great achievement. But I think if it was a choice of one or the other this time round, we have to go for the Champions League. It's just that
yeah.
last legacy before he goes. Let's be honest. I don't think Pep's going to be there for more than 2 years. So we need to win that before we kind of go back to our Division
Mm,
2 days or so. And I think the worry for me is players like Gundogan. They're getting old. And there's talk of him kind of leaving City. So there's talk of us going for like replacements. Obviously, we've been linked with Bellingham, but also
yeah.
that there's that other player. I've forgotten his name now. Chelsea, is it Chelsea or Leicester? Madison. We're
Oh
linked with
yeah, good
Madison.
player. Yeah,
Yeah, he is.
I like him. Yeah, good player.
Yeah. So I'm
And
not
he's
sure he can.
English, so that helps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't
good.
think he can. He's as good as Gundo. I think Gundo's been a great player. He's always,
Mm,
you never think of him, doesn't get the praise, but he's always does that hard work,
mm.
and he's scored some really important goals for us, especially
It's
last season
crazy, isn't
against
it?
Villa.
Since you lost David Silva, you've probably missed him for a transitional period, but not Rodri, Gundogan and Bernardo Silva have, between the pair of them, kept that midfield ticking.
Yeah, yeah,
They've carried the club since the David Silva loss. Well, not
yeah.
loss,
Even
but since
Mahrez
the
as
loss.
well. If we forget
Mm.
Mahrez, he doesn't play every single game, but yeah, it's great how he just rotates the squad
Good
and keeps
signings,
everyone
man.
happy.
Good
Yeah,
signings.
yeah,
How much
very
was
good signing.
Gundogan?
I think he was the first signing for Pep, and he was like about 30 million pounds.
Where was he
Um,
from? Germany. He's
Germany,
German.
yeah,
He's
yeah. I think
Germany.
it's Bayern Munich.
Okay.
So yeah, he was Pep's very first signing, and it's good to see that all these years down, he's still playing him.
Yeah.
But he's getting older now. But I think overall, to see Julian Alvarez like score 2 goals, like coming in, like being on the
Mm,
bench, and then all of a sudden making an impact. Whenever he comes on, he's likely to score a goal. So that
mm,
was good to see to get 2 goals, and for Haaland to get back onto the goals scoring sheet as well, and to get
mm,
subbed off for our new player Peroni. I don't know if you heard of him. He's an Argentinian. He's come on, 18-year-old. So it's another signing that we made this transfer window. So we've got 2 Argentinians, and Julian and
mm.
Peroni. So Yeah, I'm feeling very positive. Like, to be honest, after
Yeah.
seeing the Forest game, seeing even RB Leipzig, I saw that it was a 1-1 draw, but we were really attacking. But again, we let that goal in, which was disappointing. But the last three
Yeah.
games, in summary, for me, we've got that firepower back, attacking football. You see
You know
Pep's
the
body
three at the
language.
back, is that because he's been doing 4 and 3 and he's had Cancelo in that 4 and then he's switched to this 3 and is this it now? Do you think he should stop? Because there's this whole criticism of Pep constantly trying to reinvent the wheel. But do you
Yeah,
look at this team now and say, right, we know the system. They've got the back three. Whether we play against lesser teams, we play the youngsters, the Akes and the Kanjis and the Lewises. But in the big games, we then stick the Laportes and Walkers in. And is there a frustration from the City fan base that Pep does over engineer it sometimes or tries to?
yeah. So Walker and KDB were both injured, so that's why they didn't.
Yep.
So Walker,
Okay.
so they
Yep.
were tired legs. So like,
Yep.
it's he's not doing too much of it. It's just basically like, with Ake, he's coming in. This game was different because it's Bournemouth, and
Yep.
we had those tired legs. But I think he's back to, because we've got Laporte back fit now, and Diaz. Those two, I expect, like, if we're going to play Arsenal, those two will be, starting off in the starting 11 on this, on the pitch. So yeah, overall very positive, I would say. Good to see that firepower, and you see Pep Guardiola is not criticizing the players anymore. He's come out like he's really, like, you can see that body language of that attacking football, and you see overall possession wise, we're getting 70% possession. Like, we had, I think, 20 shots, 5 on target.
Yeah,
So
there you
yeah,
go.
really, really good, really decent
Crazy,
performance.
man. You had 20 shots, 5 on target,
Yeah,
8 off target. Yeah, you basically took all the stats home for sure, mate. 750 passes versus 377. So you completely outpassed them, and you basically didn't give them much of the ball, so they
no,
couldn't do
no,
much. And City's kind of mantra is, if you don't have the ball, you can't hurt us, right? That's kind of one of the
yeah,
things Pep
exactly,
believes in. Yeah.
yeah. And Bournemouth, I think, unfortunately, they're going to be like, wait, like, they've only won 1 in 9, and they're down there, like, in terms of, they're going to
Mm.
be in a relegation scrap, unfortunately.
Yeah, VJ, how's the boxing going, mate? I don't know if you got your eyes on it.
Yeah, I've got half an eye on it.
Yeah,
For the
how's it going, mate?
second 2 rounds in, I think
Yeah.
Fury's just on top at the moment. Yeah, looking all right at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, with City, I mean, yeah, they were dominant, right? I mean, 4-1 winners. Yeah, I think I agree with you. The clean sheet was a bit of a blip on the performance. Other than that, they absolutely smashed it with somewhat a third of the team, first team was missing. So I thought they did quite well, and I think that's where the difference between City and Arsenal at the moment. They can put out, and I know they've had some odd results here and there, but they can put out a second or even a third tier player in some positions and still walk away with the win. And I know it was Bournemouth, but still, you've got to beat the teams in front of you. And didn't I think it was Bournemouth who went and had week before beat Wolves, didn't they? If I'm not mistaken, or at least drew with them. And you'd probably think that Wolves is slightly stronger.
They're not as bad as. I mean, look, they're bottom of the table, aren't they, Bournemouth? But
They're not as bad as the Southampton, for example.
They can dig out a draw.
Yeah.
They can dig out a draw.
Exactly. Yeah. But no,
Where
dominant.
Do you see, VJ, these fixtures here? Do you see any banana skins here for these next 6 games? Obviously, you've got the Champions League, but then you've got Palace away, West Ham at home, and Liverpool at home. This next month is it's quite tasty, mate. Looking at this.
Yeah. I think we said earlier on, right? I just think that, looking at these fixtures, City aren't playing relegation battlers, are they? Really? I mean, you kind of think West Ham maybe, but yeah, maybe not. And Newcastle, I think, are battered and bruised from today. So I actually think that City have got the better fixtures compared to an Arsenal, in my opinion. Liverpool are not the Liverpool of the ones that chased City all the way to 100 points in the past. I think that City will come away with the Leipzig win. They'll make it through to the next round, of course. Newcastle, I'm going backwards a little bit here. Newcastle, I think they'll beat Newcastle as well, and the others too. So I think City, City in a good position. I think they're comfortable. I mean, City are really comfortable.
I think
Yeah.
for the month of March, though, Arsenal got the better. Like as per previous conversation, Arsenal got the easier fixtures to me. Like we've got Newcastle, we've got Crystal Palace away, and we've got Liverpool at home. Like versus their Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Palace. This is a big month for us. Like with the distraction of the Bristol City, yeah, and obviously the RB Leipzig. It's definitely a big month for us coming up.
Yep, sure is, mate. Sure is. Um, Liverpool are an animal which don't know which way they're going. They're put a little run together. They got spanked on Pancake Day, I should say, flipped and turned and put away, and then they went to Palace and they drew. So let's turn our attention to Liverpool, who you play in just a couple of weeks, mate. No, not a couple of weeks. Sorry, it's about 6 weeks, isn't it? About 4 weeks. Yeah,
5
4
weeks.
5 weeks. Yeah. So Liverpool, sometimes with teams when they're not fighting for anything and they're out the Champions League, which probably they will be, because are they really going to turn around 3-0 away at the Bernabeu? No. Then they've got this Premier League top four ambition with the 2 games in hand over Spurs, and they will put all their eggs in one basket when it comes to that Man City game, because they will be looking at just the Premier League. Then there'll be nothing else to fight for. So I wonder if Liverpool are a banana skin for you guys, because although it's not the Liverpool that you're used to playing, Klopp knows, and he has a great record over Pep. And I wonder if that's the day Pep over engineers it, and he and Salah, has a game, has a game of his life. So I do think there are banana skins there, Ricky.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Arsenal got Liverpool as well, though. So
they have, they
yeah,
have,
yeah,
they
yeah.
have. I just think Arteta's not going to over engineer this. I think he knows what he's doing with. Not They both know what they're doing, but I just think Pep has this habit of trying to outdo, the opposition, maybe with a surprise selection,
Mm.
maybe change the formation. And whilst this worked 90% of the time, because no one can say anything really, because it has worked, and the record shows for that. I think there's a risk of him doing that in the sort of um, more high intensity fixtures. Let me see if that caught up in the background. No, it's not. But we'll see what happens, mate. I mean, he did that in the Champions League final, and Man City fans still talk about it, and that was the cup that you wanted, and maybe you should have won that final.
Yeah.
With the players you had, and the whole kind of the whole Pep revolution. But moving to Liverpool, guys. So Liverpool went away to Palace, and they lost. They didn't lose. Sorry, for once they didn't lose. They drew. Liverpool drew. They took a point away at Palace here, 0-0. I watched the game. I thought Liverpool were wide open. I thought Trent had a nightmare. I thought Nunes was missing his pace, his running in behind. Gapco wasn't great on the night either. He should have squared in the final minutes to take the winner, but he didn't square. He just didn't do anything really. He missed the target. Salah was unlucky with the bar, but then Crystal Palace hit the bar. Crystal Palace had real 2-3 quality chances to score, and they almost showed the world how average Liverpool are with that performance. And Liverpool now have a mountain to climb because they dropped 2 points. Tottenham won today, so fourth is looking even more further away than it was. They've got the games in hand. But I wanna open this question to you guys. So Liverpool have this game away to Madrid, and I'm sure they're going to give it everything to try and turn that around. But let's just say they do come out the Champions League, and Liverpool finish 6th or 7th. Is it time to say to Klopp, thank you very much? Or do you think he deserves a transfer window and to go again next year?
It wouldn't be. I mean, Klopp's not the problem here. It's basically investment and rebuilding the squad. I think it's been said over and over again is that these players, he absolutely got the best out of them. He coached a lot of them, and they, like we just said, they chased Man City in the last few seasons all the way to the wire. All the way to the wire. They actually made each other better. They made City better because I had to compete with them. So Klopp's Klopp's the guy to turn it around. I mean, if they got rid of Klopp, who are they going to bring in? Even if, whoever they bring in, the manager is not going to um, somehow re-energize the players that he's got right now, right? You know, Henderson's not going to become 5 years younger. You know, instantly, Milner's not going to become 10 years younger. So they need investments in that midfield. It's said again and again and again. And it's a bit like, you know, Chelsea as we're seeing at the moment. And I'll come to Chelsea in a minute. When the team ain't playing well, even your stars don't shine so brightly. And I think that's why we're seeing the likes of your Salahs, your Trents. Robertson wasn't too bad yesterday. He was probably one of the better ones. Are not performing. And these were the ones that were absolutely smashing it week in, week out. So, no, I think it'd be ludicrous to get rid of Klopp. As much as I don't want him at Liverpool, right? He's a rival. But he's not the problem. He's not the problem.
Do you think he got the selection wrong there, VJ? Because there's an argument that why is Milner even starting? Why is Hendo even starting? Do you think looking at that and looking at the age of these players is, I'm not saying they can't push out 95 minutes because Silva does it at Chelsea and we see, you know, other players around the league putting in performances. They can do it at that age. But do you think he's he's got these favorites obviously and he's favoritizing the Milners and Hendos when really he needs to maybe even bring in a couple of youngsters or try something different? Because I hear Liverpool fans online saying, why does he keep doing the same thing, especially in midfield, when it's clearly not working and these two can't control a game of football anymore?
Well, I mean, that would probably be better coming from a Liverpool fan. But the way I see it is that clearly these guys have done it for him before. And maybe what he sees outside of the pitch, what we see is that they're the best that he's got. And he plays that youngster in there as well, Vajtacic. If I say that wrong. But he can't pin everything on the 18-year-old. So he has to bring a Henderson in. He has to bring a Milner in to share the load a little bit. And I think partly he's also sort of shouting at the owners, FSG, to say, hang on a minute, look, guys, I have to play these players because that's all I've got. I haven't got anyone else to fill those spots. So I don't know. I mean, it might be better coming from a Liverpool fan, but I think there's two parts there. I think number one, he probably trusts them that they are the best that he's got. And number two, he's playing them because he wants to make a statement.
Yeah, I'm showing you guys these stats here, guys. So anyone who didn't watch the game, just from a numbers point of view, Liverpool had 4 shots on target. And you can see there, Palace had none on target. So it wasn't a case of Palace not producing or creating chances. It was just lack of finishing. They hit the bar in that. So, that one was close. They had 4 off target. And as I scroll down, if we go to big chances, you can see on the left there, Palace took the big chances with 3, but they missed all 3. They didn't hit the target, as we know. Liverpool did hit the woodwork 3 times, and Palace once. And you can also see down the bottom here with the passes section, Liverpool outpassed by double Crystal Palace away. So there was control of the game from a possession point of view, but they just weren't getting through that Palace defense enough. And the midfield was just not creating enough. And that was the problem. Trent had a few moments where he put in a couple of good balls. You got 2 crosses that are 14 that were successful. That's not what we're used to seeing from Liverpool. Whereas Crystal Palace, 23 crosses and 5 successful, so more than double. So they had more width on the day. Liverpool had the success in dribbling, but again, there's not that much in it. They lost possession a lot of the time. They didn't win their duels. They tackled less. They intercepted less. So my question is, and I'll go to you Ricky, on this one. Similar question is, if you're Jurgen Klopp and you're away to Palace, and you're in this situation where, your job's on the line, Champions League's on the line, do you go with Henderson and Milner, or do you go down this bench here and say, to hell with the big names and the guys that have done it for me in the past? I'm gonna switch it up. Or do you think, as to VJ's point, it's kind of pretty much what he's got? What does he really do differently?
Yeah, I would switch it up if it was me. Like, you need to give the other players a chance, and the priority is the Champions League, isn't it? They're not going to come back from that Real Madrid kind of deficit at the moment. But this is a great opportunity to test out all the other players. And this is a very freak season. You wouldn't see like to draw away to Crystal Palace. It's just very un-Liverpool like, but that's what it is. I think they just need to kind of give all the youngsters a chance. There's too much deadwood, I think, in the team. Like with Milner and Henderson, I think this is probably their last or second last season. I don't know if you guys agree, but
Yeah,
they just need a mass overhaul of the team. Liverpool do. I do agree with VJ. I think if you were to get rid of Klopp, who else could you bring in to replace him? It's very difficult to replace someone like Klopp, and it's only a one-off season. This one, you can't get rid of him if they finish where they are. But I still think that Liverpool will come good. They will you can't write them off just yet. They're seventh, but they can definitely kind of close the gap on Spurs and Newcastle.
Yeah, I think my worry with Liverpool lads is watching them live. They're so they'll create a chance and then it's tennis. The opposition team gets opportunities, and that wasn't Liverpool not long ago. So I think their biggest weakness, yes, the midfield's missing, but at the back it's a bit of a mess. Trent's running up the pitch. No one's really. Hendo will try and cover up, but it's all a bit hopeful football, and they're just trying to get a moment of magic out of some of their front players and get the right through ball in. But one thing I will say with Nunez is he's missed a lot of his opportunities, and if he'd scored half of them, then Liverpool would have a lot more points. So because Nunez has been wasteful, they have suffered more than Nunez on form puts those away, and Liverpool are 6-7 points higher up the table. So they have been unlucky. They have been unlucky with Nunez not finishing his chances. They have had injuries left and right with Diaz, with Jota, and obviously Van Dijk. Alisson's kept them in it a lot of the time as well. He's covered up a lot of those cracks with worldies. So I think we're seeing Liverpool being exposed now. But I do question Klopp's selection. Is when you're going away in the Premier League to a place like Palace, you need to have some fighters in the middle of the park, real dogs in the middle of the park. And they might not be technically gifted. They might not be, they're not going to, stick in that through ball, and create a chance in that sense. But they'll give you 110% with the interceptions, with the blocks, with the tackles. And then you leave it up to the front men, the Salahs, the Gapcos, and the quality they've got up front to then do the business. And I feel like Klopp got that midfield wrong personally. I thought that lineup in midfield, he got it wrong. He should have started either Milner or Hendo, but he should have put some more legs in there because they didn't have bite and they didn't have anyone in the middle of the park running their legs out non-stop, trying to stop Palace. And Palace kept winning the ball back in transition and then creating opportunities. And Liverpool weren't winning the ball back in transition enough. So for me, I thought Klopp got the midfield selection wrong. But as to the points you've made here, guys, on the bench, there isn't amazing quality. But I would have put more legs in the midfield. Let's have a look at their fixtures, lads, before we close off on Liverpool. So you've got Wolves, then you've got United. How are you guys looking at this? It's looking quite daunting, man. Just looking at a few of those.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, Zaha was missing for Palace, right? If he'd been there, could have been a different story.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, looking at these fixtures, I mean, Wolves have been the better side when they played them in the FA Cup, didn't they? Over those two legs, and probably should have deserved to have gone through, actually. So I don't think that's going to be a pushover, although they beat them in the reverse fixture, didn't they, a few weeks back? But Bournemouth, yeah, okay. They managed to get one back against a pretty decent City side. So, they're capable of a goal or two, haven't they? And given that Liverpool aren't banging in goals, like they used to, that's could be a potential banana skin. Fulham, similar. They're flying, aren't they, at the moment? No one expected them to be where they are. United they're on cloud nine, aren't they? So I think going there is going to be tough. Real Madrid, that's just a formality, isn't it? There's nothing in that game, surely. I mean, 5-2. It should have been more for Real, shouldn't it? So that's a done. that's a done dusted one. Although that was quite funny, really, because in the first 14 minutes they thought they'd won the game.
Yeah.
Thought they'd won the
So
whole cup actually.
Allison did
Yeah,
what he did there.
yeah, exactly. It was quite funny actually. On the back of Tebow's as well. And then the big one, Man City versus Liverpool.
All the Liverpool are back tweets were coming out. We're back in the Champions League. As in, we're back properly now. And half time,
Yeah.
it was 2-2, and I'm thinking, what's going on
delete,
here, man?
delete.
Yeah, exactly. Unsend, and then turn your phone off. And then full time was just a joke, wasn't it? 5-2, mate. That was just taking the piss.
Oh, it was. It got a bit funny in the end. It was just how many, wasn't it? Yeah, they just weren't coming back from
torture,
it.
Man.
Yeah, but the weird thing was, when Liverpool played Newcastle the week before, and they had Pope got sent off.
Yeah.
He got sent off quite early in the game, and they had started like the Madrid game, right? They were 2 up quite early, but even when they were down to 10 men, Newcastle, they had the better chances.
Yeah.
And 11v11, that could have been a whole different outcome. And I think they had a false sense of security going into that Madrid game. Anyway, that's a different story.
They need the real Pope right now, Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? That's what they need.
Yeah, well,
the thing is, like with that game when what's his name, Pope got sent off. I think it was 27 minutes or something like that. It was quite early, like you said. I sort of looked and thought, right, Liverpool going to go on and score 4-5, right? Because obviously you got the extra man and everything. But like you said, Newcastle started playing better, and I just think the little mini Everton win and the Newcastle win, like you just said, VJ, was a bit of a false dawn, wasn't it? Because a lot of people, including myself, think, are Liverpool back now? Have they got their mojo back? Are they going to start playing to their strengths and maybe carry some of that midfield, that average midfield? You can still do that in the Premier League. If your front players play well, you can carry the average players. But they've just gone back to default. They've just gone back to default with that 5-2 loss, and then 0-0 away at Palace. And Ricky, looking at these fixtures, mate, Liverpool, Wolves, Liverpool, Man United. If Wolves win, right, and Man United give them a spanking, then what are we saying? We just, as a Liverpool fan, you're just looking at it thinking, forget the season now. Just send it. It's done.
I think that game against City, anything can happen. I don't know who's going to be the fool on April Fools in terms of bringing on if it's going to be Pep and play a City team. But I think City and Liverpool is always going to be like I'm sure Liverpool will want to just disrupt our title chances and it'll just be a very exactly. So I think Liverpool. This is again the key. Apart from the Real Madrid game, the other fixture, the Premiership fixtures, are key for them to stay into this top 4 race, and they're going to give us a game on the first. I think Liverpool it's going to be really, really a tough game for us. But yeah, it's very interesting.
I think you'll beat them proper, mate. I think you'll beat them, mate. I think
I
that midfield. So. If he plays Milner and what's his name, Hendo. As much I think Hendo wasn't a really good player, I just look at him now and think, nah, it's not happening, man. It's not working anymore.
Yeah.
The thing is, they've got the 2 games in hand, and I want to ask you this question, lads, because VJ, I guess this question is more relevant to you, but just generally, just as fans, is it better just not to be in the Europa League or the Conference League, worst case, and next season just completely have that season where you get back into top 4, maybe try and win an FA Cup or a League Cup? Or is it better to stay in Europe to have what Man United have done, which is beat the Barcelonas in the latter stages and have another second ticket into the Champions League should your top 4 race not quite work out?
Do you know, that's a weird question, because if you're asking me as a Chelsea fan, I'll give you a different answer this season as I would last season, because given that we've got a bucket load of players, I think we need to be in as many competitions as possible to give those players game time. And okay, you might regard a Europa League or even a Europa Conference as a lower grade of competition, but it still allows you to blood some of those younger players that we've brought in and be integral as part of the team. I think if you're only in domestic competitions or the Premier League, then it becomes difficult. Like Chelsea are only in the Premier League right now. It's difficult to keep everybody happy. That's why we're seeing so many changes every game. However, for Liverpool, it may well be the right thing to do, is to kind of put this season to one side, write it off, finish 9th or 10th outside of European places, and go and rebuild again, and go for, the league and domestic cups, as Arsenal are doing it this season.
You just look at teams like Brentford and Brighton up there as well. It's just really like Fulham as well. It's a really strange season, isn't it? And I think,
But they're only there because Chelsea and Liverpool are failing, right? I mean,
yeah,
Liverpool would have, in a I say normal, nothing's normal nowadays. What is normal? But Liverpool not long ago would have been in that top four, top five, and Chelsea would have been in that top four, right? And these guys would have been ninth, 10th. Fulham, they're there at an expense of the lack of points that Chelsea and Liverpool have won. So I look at them and I think they're doing really well. Don't get me wrong. To have 39 points, Fulham are staying up. Obviously, they're all staying up. Anyone on that first slide is staying up. But I think it's a false league table in the sense that those two clubs, Chelsea and Liverpool, should be easily sort of 45 points, 50 points, and the other teams would have dropped points at Chelsea at home or away and Liverpool home and away, but they've actually beat Chelsea, the Brentfords, the Fulhams, the Brightons. It's a really strange season, man. It's a really strange season, but yeah, credit they're still doing the business. Um, but this whole thing about Europa League, so my view on it is this, guys, and I'll kind of give you an alternative view: is not being in the Champions League. The next best thing is the Europa League. Obviously, it's a ticket to the Champions League if you don't finish fourth, so that's great. There's no fan that doesn't want to go on a European tour away with his mates and enjoy the Barcelonas or the whatever big games you play in the latter stages. There is a bit of money which Liverpool could do with right now, right? From that point of view. And as to VJ's point, you do get to trial outside the Premier League, a very intense Premier League. You get to trial players to develop them in lesser games and see how they adapt in different formation systems, partner them with different players at the back, and do all that lovely experimentation stuff. So my argument would be that whilst the season for Liverpool without Europa League or Conference League would save them embarrassment, because I think there is a bit of embarrassment, and I think fans don't want to be in the Europa League. It's a secondary competition. It's like, it's just it's sloppy seconds, man. No one wants it. Everyone wants to be in the Champions League, especially clubs like Liverpool and Chelsea, who are known to be the cream of the Champions League. They've both won it in the last 5 years. To be in the Europa League, it's almost like an insult to them. But but once you get past that stage, and you get past that stage of, okay, we're not in the Champions League, we're in the Europa League. Yes, Thursday nights is awful. Yes, playing on Sunday is awful. No footballer likes it. No fan likes the Thursday nights, Sunday nights, and all the crap that comes with that, the embarrassment. But going back to just the whole reset and the whole mechanism of Potter having an extra midweek game in Europe to find out what certain players can do in a lesser game, in a lesser environment. Choose if Potter had the Europa League now, it'd be better for him than the Champions League, because that's what he actually needs. He needs extra games. He needs a Thursday game to get it right to come back to the Premier League. And I think, yes, Klopp's not new to the Premier League and he's not new to Liverpool, so he knows what he wants. He knows exactly what kind of system he wants to play, everything. But I just think Liverpool being in the Europa League wouldn't be as bad a step down as Liverpool fans would make it out to be, like, oh, the Europa League, I don't want to be in the Europa League. And I'd say the same to Chelsea as well, because you will get to blood a few more players that will then, in the long run, maybe save you signing a replacement player, because you've now unearthed a gem, or you've given a player a bit more game time than you otherwise would have in the Premier League. The Premier League is not a place to experiment. It finds you out. It's just so ruthless and brutal, the Premier League. Whichever ground you go to, wherever you play, it's just too ruthless, and you can't experiment. And Potter is a classic example of that. And let's move on to Chelsea now, and that nicely moves us into the last game of the weekend, which was today. Let's talk about Potter, VJ. I've been listening to Potter all week, in and out of radio and whatnot, and I've been listening to ex-Chelsea players and a lot of Talk Sport and a couple of other channels. And the consensus is that he doesn't know his first 11, and he doesn't have maybe the respect of the dressing room because he doesn't have the CV and he doesn't have the titles and the glory behind him, and he's just not a right fit for the club. And then I've heard the odd Chelsea fan say, "Hold up, hold up, hold up." Feel a bit sorry for this guy. He's been given all these new ideas and all this new kind of, some superstars, some real expensive players. Like he needs a season and he needs a preseason to really, really understand what these players can do together. Because a preseason is really the couple of months where you actually get to do and implement your ideas. So are we and looking at both sides of the coin, apart from just your own personal view, is there a bit of impatience here and like embarrassment looking at the table and thinking they're all running away with it? We're going to miss out on the Champions League. When actually, if you take all of that noise away, Potter does need time. Or are you on the other side where he's had his time, he's had enough time, and it's time to go?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, Tyson Fury, not Tyson Fury, sorry, Tommy Fury has won by split decision, so that's done.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, right, Josh. The supporters are split into two camps, as you just said there, right? And I think when you're watching the games, and we come away and we lose, the emotion is high, and you're like, Potter out, get out, it's done. And then when you cool down and you sit and reflect a little bit, and you think, yeah, exactly like you're thinking right now. Well, hang on a minute, this guy's come in, he's been chucked a load of players, big egos, they all want to play. It must be tough for him. He's still trying to find his feet. But I think if you look at it in a pragmatic way, if this was the start of the season and he had just been brought in, we'd be at the bottom of the table right now, right? With one win in 10 or 11, whatever it is right now. I'm not even counting because it's become depressing. So
14.
at what? Yeah, right, exactly. So at what point do you turn around and say, okay, we need to make a change? Because yes, you're right. He needs time. He needs to find his best 11. He needs to find the right squad, and then he can build. Will he become success at Chelsea? I think he will if they give him enough time. But what you can't do is say, well, here's all the time in the world. Here's all the money, that we put into the squad. Now go and do it. Because you need to win games. The league doesn't stand still. Every week, there's 3 points up for grabs. Either you take those 3 points, or you take 1 point, or you get no points. You can't stand still for 38 games. Everybody else is moving around you. So that's the problem that he's got, is that although he's losing games, if he was losing the odd one here and there, but he was winning, drawing a lot more, then you could see, and fans would turn around and say, well, okay, he's clearly on a path to building something great. And yes, we're going to finish 6th or 7th, but we can see where we're going. At the moment, we're losing all the games. I mean, today's game. I mean, yes, first 20 minutes we were pretty good, actually. We were quite good. But I don't know if some of that was down to Tottenham saying, well, okay, well, you come at us, let's see what you got, and then we'll come back at you, right? And then they thought, hang on a minute, we know that's all they've got. So, and then they done us on the counter a couple of times and scored two easy goals in the end. I mean, that one from Skip, which literally at the restart, there's a ball that's cleared. Kepa should have been collecting that ball. Fernandes whacks it straight out to Skip, bang off the bar. A bit of Jorginho-esque that was from the week before, where it come off the bar.
And it reminds me of the Ericsson. Do you remember the Ericsson one at the bridge when Ericsson scored?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a similar kind of goal, but we lost that game.
The title, yeah,
we lost that game. Yeah, again, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. And then the second one, Kane's always fox in the box. He's always there. He's always putting them away, and everyone's just looking around like, what's going on?
With Harry Kane, right? If you look at Harry Kane, obviously as a Spurs fan, I look at everything Harry Kane pretty much does. He always hangs at the back post, and what he does, he starts in the middle and then he curves around and he waits for the flick on. They probably do it every day in training. That was straight out the Spurs classic Harry Kane book. One of the bigger lads, and Eric Dyer's second tallest, I think, in the team. Or tallest, I think he is actually now after the goalkeeper. So he's tallest outfield player. He's headed it on and Harry Kane's done the lurking thing and he's finished. And literally, I can't believe that some teams do their homework on him, but that is what Harry Kane does every corner, man. You'll see him
Yeah.
do that every corner. Does it for England as well. He doesn't get involved in the middle anymore because that's where all the all the argy-bargy is. But yeah, that was
Hmm.
just a classic. If you'd done your homework on Kane, you would have stopped that. Someone at Chelsea missed the trick there with that one.
Well, and that's what I mean. So, there was a lot of talk about, well, injuries. Most of the players are back from injury, but there's nothing cooking, right? You're in the kitchen. What's cooking? Nothing is cooking, and we can't see what's going on. And okay, he made a joke the other day, in a crisis meeting, and then he says, "I'm still here." You kind of almost wonder a little bit if they're sort of saying to him, "Don't worry about it. We're not getting relegated this season. Do what you have to do, but next season's where you've got to smash it." Yeah, and he might have a preseason, and he came out, and it was quite sort of. I don't know if he meant it that way. I mean, the guy's been getting death threats, so he's got to
Yeah.
deflect something. And he turned around and said, "Oh well, the preseason that the players had with Tuchel was terrible." Like, he didn't mention Tuchel's name, by the way, but he was obviously implying that because Tuchel was there at the time. It was the worst that he'd ever had. And okay, the play wasn't great when Tuchel was there as in earlier on this season, but it hasn't gotten any better.
But
When Potter came in.
was that because the club was under so much uncertainty? Is that why that preseason didn't go well? Do you think, or was that
Well,
because in a normal environment, would
part of
Tuchel
it.
have had a better season preseason? Sorry.
Well, yeah, that would have been part of it, isn't it? At the end of the day, there was all this sort of up and down stuff going on, and there was a point where we didn't have enough money for hotels and coaches
Yeah,
and
it was
stuff like that,
embarrassing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had the money, you couldn't spend it, right? That's what it was. You couldn't spend it.
Couldn't spend it. Yeah, everything was frozen, and yes, it was a tough time, but that's all done and dusted. Clearly, we've got new ownership, we've got a lot of money and spent a lot of money into the club, and none of it
It's like the best
is
U-turn
coming
you could
off.
have. It's the best U-turn you could have expected to have someone like Todd Bodie come in and do what he's done. I mean, you must be in dreamland because 6 months ago Chelsea were done. It was almost like, are Chelsea going to get sold and just become that club that almost a bit like the Glazers? They just keep it going and flip it in 10. But he's come in and smashed it on the pitch.
Well, you see, exactly, you're right. It could have gone better in terms of a fan and owners coming in, putting their money where their mouth is, investing in things of that nature. So that respect is really good. But on the flip side, we sort of say, well, I'm hearing a lot of pundits on TV sort of say things like, "Oh well, he spent too much money and he's bamboozled Potter in a way, right, by putting all these players." So it is a weird situation because they could have easily turned around and said, "Oh well, they haven't backed him. They haven't bought him any players. They bought him one, maybe two players. That's not enough. He needs to have a proper preseason. He needs to have a proper transfer window where he brings in his own players." I don't think that ever happens at Chelsea. Actually, I don't think a manager actually has a transfer window for himself. I think it is a club decision. The club brings in players, and it was the same with the previous owners as well. So it's kind of like,
Is
well,
that the problem? Is that why Chelsea keep going through managers because they don't have that Arteta Klopp involvement in choosing the players they exactly want, regardless of if it's a 33-year-old or whatever the situation is? Because you mentioned something
yeah.
there that the managers are not as involved in recruitment as maybe you would like them to be.
Yeah, correct. They're not. They're not. And I don't think that's too different to the way it's always been. And guess what? It's been a success, right? I mean, Chelsea have won everything they could have won, and more, right? So it's working, and the turnover in managers every 2 or 3 years is working. Even when Ancelotti was at Chelsea, he won the double, for goodness sake, and he was gone after that. So there seems to be almost like a turnover. Something goes wrong either in the back room, behind the scenes. Sorry, not the back room, behind the scenes, and then the managers are all gone. Same happened with Tuchel, but it's a new regime now. And if Abramovich was still here, Potter wouldn't be in a position right now.
But then if that's what's worked, that model, and Chelsea have proven it to work, which is chop, like you're in, succeed, for whatever reason, on or off the pitch, you're out. The next big thing, come in, Ancelotti, Tuchel,
Yeah,
whoever it was, the strange thing is that exactly what they probably need to do, in most Chelsea fans' opinion, is to stick to that model, although it's not ideal because you haven't got the man in place for 3-4 years to build a real philosophy and a playing style. Do you think Chelsea kind of almost have to go back to what they've always done, or are you the kind of fan that thinks, I just want stability and I want that one manager that we can dominate English football for 5 years, like a Klopp, for example?
Yeah, do you know the weird thing is, right? You know, and I know Liverpool fans they absolutely worship Klopp, right? And he's been there for absolutely ages, 7 years now.
Mm, mm.
You know, same with Pep, he's been there for
Same with
absolutely
Pep, I was
ages,
going to
and
say, yeah.
yeah, and they worship him and stuff like that. In reality, if a player doesn't perform, he gets sold, right, or he gets moved on, right, and a new one comes in. There is no loyalty in football. And I think as football fans, you know, we're all Potter out today. He wins 2 or 3 games and we think that he's turned it around. He's the man for the job. And that's the reality. And we think that he's going to turn it all around again. So for me, you know, why do we want a manager that stays for 7 years? Great if we can make a manager stay for 7, 10, 20 years like Alex Ferguson. Great, let's do that. But I think there's too much emphasis on having one manager that has to make it. Why should that be? And I know that sounds a bit silly in a way, because you do want that stability, and that's what brings stability in a club if the manager is there. But we've seen with a lot of clubs, managers do move quickly, especially in the relegation zone. Now you're going to start to see a lot of managers sort of, you know, a lot of turnover because new manager comes in and they change things and they improve results.
BJ, the risk of chopping and changing managers almost deters some managers to come there now, because the model is not allowing a manager to really get his feet and hands into the club. And, you know, there could be a manager out there, you know, say you got rid of Potter today. Tomorrow you got rid of Potter, right? He's sacked. And you now going to market. You have to give every manager and say, look, you come in, when you go through your down period, I'm going to back you. You know, you can have 6 months to get it right. You know, you can have that bit of leeway because you've done this in Europe. So if someone like Simeone, for example, I know you might not want his football at the bridge, but let's just say he gets you results. Diego Simeone from Atletico Madrid, he might go through a whole bit where it's like it's not working. But at what point are you going to deter a decent manager from joining Chelsea? So this model that Todd Bowley's got, where he's like almost the perfect owner. Okay, maybe they're not Potter players. You know, to your point about Chelsea just buying the best world-class players they can get their hands on within that particular window, right? And outdoing their rivals in Arsenal this window. And I get that, right? Because you want to get the best quality in the squad that you can. But at the same time, I look at Chelsea and I think they can't continue to chop and change. They need to find their Pep, and they need to back their Pep, whoever that guy is. And obviously, by the looks of it, it's not Potter. It's not Potter. He's a young, upcoming manager that at Brighton did really well with less expectation, good recruitment, and mid-table was great for Brighton. Even staying in the Premier League was great for Brighton, and he managed to get them up into the top 8 and do some good stuff with them. But let's be honest, was he even the right recruitment for Chelsea? For Chelsea Football Club, was he even the right man? Because Brian have been fine without him. Isn't Chelsea, for me, Chelsea's always getting proven players, proven managers, and proving it works, And yes, the odd youngster, the odd youngster comes in and maybe goes out on loan. But Chelsea, for me, this is a mismatch because yes, you give a manager time to build stability like Pep has been given time. Arsenal, I don't want to compare Arsenal and Arteta to Chelsea because it's a different bag because one's ambitious to win it all by backing them with millions, and the other one's got to bring in youngsters and be careful on what they spend. So was Potter even the right decision in hindsight? You look back at now and saying, what were we doing going for flipping Graham Potter? I mean, seriously speaking, like we're Chelsea
Yeah.
Football Club, man. Was it
Well,
a mistake initially?
Well, I think they tried to. What I can see is they tried to stabilize a club and move it away from the 2-3 year manager rotation system that we've had, and go for someone that can build teams, build youth, coach them, and become successful that way. Clearly, it's not working. I'd love Potter to stay and to make it a success. I've got nothing against the guy, and I think most Chelsea fans have got nothing against the guy. It's purely his credentials. And going back to my point is, if this was the start of the season, we'd be in a relegation zone right now. At what point do you turn around and say, well, we need to give the guy time to build? Yes, but we don't want to also get relegated at the same time. And I know that we're not going to get relegated. But the reality is that we're on 31 points.
Yeah, it's awful, man.
That's not even relegation safe zone.
You'll be 11th next week. I think Villa are pretty much
right
there.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I'm saying is that where do you draw the line? You can't say, well, okay, well, here's the job for you, Mr. Graham Potter. Here's a season for you. Go out and do it. Make sure we don't get relegated and everything's great. That's not going to happen at Chelsea. Forget Chelsea. That's not going to happen at any club. No Premier League club is going to say that to their manager at all, are they? And I think that's where you've got a problem is that it's just loss after loss after loss. I mean, where you've got Chelsea up on screen, look, 3 draws and 2 losses.
Yeah, it's a joke, isn't it? I know. The only bit of green at Chelsea Football Club is the bit on the grass at the moment, mate.
Exactly.
There, it's a shame. I mean, I think Potter was a knee-jerk. I think they got rid of Tuchel because of political issues behind the scenes, from what I've heard. It wasn't necessarily purely a football-based decision. Todd Bowley fell out with him. I think it was over signings or something. Something fell out over him with something. Potter was a quick fix to come in. This British manager doing well at Brighton. Got the whole psychology thing. He studied it. He's a master of, and he's done the whole degree and everything. And he's into all that kind of stuff for football as well. So it sounded great. But let's just strip it back. When Tuchel went out, Potter had no right to walk into that club, if you ask me. Chelsea Football Club, right? The quality they've got, the money they've spent, the squad they've got, where they've been sitting at the top table for so long. Now I look back and think, how did even Graham Potter get that job? Because at Spurs, and I say this being a Tottenham fan, it would have made more sense because of who we are, because we're not Chelsea Football Club. We don't have that squad. We don't spend that kind of money, and we work on the recruitment thing. For me, Chelsea don't need youngsters to come through necessarily. Chelsea have quality. Chelsea have the players to win a league, to be top 4, to win a Champions League. So to bring in this guy who brings youngsters, I'm looking back now. For me, it looks like chalk and cheese, VJ. And it's easy to talk in hindsight because it's obviously a lot easier after you've seen what you can do. But even if you just go back to the moment when they hired him, I almost remember speaking to a couple of mates going, Chelsea have got Graham Potter. Oh, he's going to be there 3 months, 2 months. They'll get their man. He's just a short-term babysitter.
Stopgap. Yeah.
He's a stopgap. And then it's been like, we want stability. We want to give him time. But off what? Off pretty much keeping Brighton in the Premier League. And that's not enough for Chelsea, if you ask me, VJ. Chelsea should have a seasoned, winning, historically winning manager that walks in that dressing room and commands respect from the moment they find out he's joining the club. A lot of these players are looking at Potter like me and you are, or a lot of fans, general fans are looking at Potter going, not being funny, but you're punching, mate. You're seriously punching. Yep. And you can tell me about tactics and organization and how I need to be a better player, but what world-class players have you developed? What have you done that's world-class that you can sit here and take 100% of my attention? I'm basically listening to a coach. They probably look at him as one of those assistant coaches, and at best, he should be Chelsea's assistant coach. How he got that job, I look back and I think, was it a knee-jerk or was it a planned-out process where they said, right, we want Potter, and then we're going to get rid of Tuchel? Or was it, we need to get rid of Tuchel because we've fallen out with him for whatever reasons? Right, now what's the next best thing? Do you get what I'm saying? I think it was done reactively rather than proactively, where they actually had Potter and then they had a meeting and said, right, we really want this guy. I don't think it was like that, VJ, personally, mate, looking out.
No, I don't. And your table that you got up on screen is telling, because you talk about the greens. Chelsea is the only one in that top 10 that hasn't got a green in the last 5. That's unheard of for a top 6 side. Absolutely.
You haven't had this form since 11 years. It's been since you had this form. I heard on the radio earlier today. 11 years since Chelsea had this kind of form. And I don't know who that was, but whoever that was lost the dressing room and got sacked pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, it'd be pretty tough to guess, wouldn't it? I mean, that happens every 2-3 years. But the point here is that it's insane. I mean, this is a false position for Chelsea. And I'm not trying to say that that we're entitled to be further up the table, but with the investment, the club, or what they've done over the last 20 years, they should be up there with the Uniteds and the Spurs and the Cities. They should be up there. They finished third last season. They lost in two FA Cup. They lost in two domestic cup finals on penalties, for goodness sake, and that could have gone any which way. Penalties are flipping a coin. And you've gone from that to this.
Yeah. Quickly, just on the game from a Tottenham point of view before we close off, lads. I thought Spurs wanted the second balls bet more than Chelsea. Spurs were hungrier. Spurs won their battles. Spurs were just biting at Chelsea the whole game. We gave you that 20 minutes, 15 minutes. I think the reason Tottenham did that, and we've been a slow first half team all season. It's been driving me mad how we don't come out the traps, just, playing good football or going for it. But the reason I think they did that is because they respected Chelsea and they know that the quality on the pitch could damage them, so they waited to see what this Chelsea was going to do on the day in that game. And they realized after 20 minutes, there wasn't a lot to be worried about. I think Sterling had a shot or something. I can't remember what it was, or someone had a shot. And I think off that, they went, right, okay, we've sussed out the situation. And then they started going for it, and then they won the game and deserved winners on the day. When I was doing the highlights reel for Instagram, I couldn't even find any Chelsea highlights, mate. I literally had a Sterling shot and a yellow card and a red card that was overturned into a yellow. So there wasn't much to say about Chelsea on the day. And I worry for Chelsea because I think top 7, top 8 is still possible. Europa League's possible, but then it comes back to the question: do you even want to be in the Europa League? And whether Chelsea take a year out and get it right from scratch rather than still kind of trying to nurse some kind of European presence. Lads, we'll finish off on a quick team of the weekend. And what I'll do is I won't actually type these in, but we'll just go around the table and you guys can tell me. So starting with the goalkeeper, out the big 6, which goalkeeper do you think was the man this weekend? So we've got Fraser Foster as a winner. We've got Edison as a winner. We've got De Gea lifting a trophy. And you've got Ramsdale as well. So out those teams, they're all on the winning teams. Alisson, I don't think had a worldie at all at Liverpool.
No, I think it's been. I'd say De Gea. He made some pretty decent saves today.
Yeah.
If we're using the League Cup as well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that. Ricky, you cool with that, mate? Or do you want to put in your man Edison? Ricky, you there? Oh, I think he's on mute, is he? Ricky.
He's trying something.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave De Gea in there for now. Left back, you've got Luke Shaw. You've got Ben Davis, who wasn't really, he was a left wing back. And I think Ben Davis had a good game for Spurs. Anyone else that stood out this weekend in the big 6 in terms of the left-hand side? You
I
had
think two that you mentioned were pretty decent. Yeah,
Zinchenko had a good game.
he had a good game. Yeah. I thought, yeah, you could put in Zinchenko. Let's put a Premier League player in.
Davis as well. Yeah, I'm going to put Davis as well because I thought left wing back Davis was good today. He was pretty decent. Centre backs. So we've got Diaz. I thought was decent.
Yeah, I'll say Diaz would go in there.
Yeah, and I guess Varane is just playing out of his skin right now, man, and Martinez.
Yeah.
So we've got to put one of them. I think Varane for me, guys. I think at that age, and he's delivering. He's delivering every game. Right back. So from a Spurs perspective, I would look at Emerson Royale, who was pretty decent today. I don't know if you agree with EJ.
Yeah, Emerson. Yeah, Emerson was pretty decent. I know Liverpool weren't great, but Trent weren't too bad actually.
he got caught out going back. That was the only problem.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and
His
you know when they hit the
defensive.
bar.
I was looking at his attacking plays. Attacking
Yeah,
plays are really good, but defensively, yeah, he's always
he got
I'd
caught
he's
out.
say
always caught out. Yeah.
Rico Lewis would be up there with a shout at least. I think he's did really well.
Lico's more of a right mid, isn't he?
He started off right back, but then he
Did
just
he?
kind of drifts
Okay,
in. Yeah,
let's put him in. Let's put him in, man. Young man.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's improving every week, man. Definitely be playing for England soon the way he's going. Middle of the park, so we had Odegaard. Don't think he was great for his own standards. Jorginho was okay. Anyone from the City team, Ricky? That
So we had Rodri. He was quite solid, but he does kind of play quite standard, solid every game.
yeah,
Already, he didn't have much to do, to be honest.
okay.
Gundo played in the centre mid as well.
I'm gonna put Skip in there for the goal,
Yeah,
lads,
Skip
and his
also.
performance. So we'll stick him in there for the goal
Skip.
and the performance. Yeah.
Thought Rice was pretty good and all.
Yeah, Rice had a good game, didn't he? Because I think he scored and set
Yeah.
up one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
So
but Skip was good. Skip was good. Yeah,
yeah,
put Scott,
let's
Rice
put
on the
Rice in
left.
there.
Yeah.
And then on the right, Martinelli was top left, so we'll hold Martinelli for a second. On the right,
Foden.
Foden, 100%.
Yeah.
100% for Foden. Yeah, definitely. I think we've got to stick Martinelli in there, and then Rashford.
Yeah.
With the goal. Martinelli, and it's always going to be Rashford, I think, for the rest of the season. The way he's skinning every defense. Up top, Haaland had a good. Alvarez was good as well when
I'd
he
say
set up and
Alvarez.
scored.
Yeah, he scored two
Yeah.
goals. I think
Yeah. Alvarez.
Yeah,
Did he get
Alvarez.
Did he get two? He got two,
Yeah.
didn't he?
He got
Two
two.
goals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got two,
Yeah.
man. And on the right, Saka had a bit of a quiet one. For us, Kulusevski was pretty poor and quiet. Mahrez didn't play, did he?
Morris didn't play. Yeah.
That played for City.
Maybe.
Haaland scored a goal, but
Haaland,
was
yeah,
just-
it was a different formation, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Different.
I didn't see the West Ham game. Was Bowen any good?
He didn't score, but I know. I mean, he had a good game. What about the other winning team of the weekend? So you had Spurs, United. United on the right had. They didn't have Sancho. They had Anthony, but I don't think he was great. So yeah, it kind of leaves us
Yeah,
with put our man from West Ham. Is that what you're thinking? Or let's just have a look.
Villa. Villa had a couple of.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I'm
about
just
Villa.
trying to
I mean,
think.
only
England-
Watkins was the only one that was decent. Yeah.
I mean, Gundogan, like he
Oh, yeah.
started in midfield, but ended up in playing up front. To be honest, and he
Yeah,
got man of the
Gundogan
match,
was
I think.
decent.
Yeah,
He was decent.
Yeah.
Let's put Gundo in there. And that is our team of the weekend, lads. So there you have it. 4-3-3, De Gea, Diaz and Varane. That's quality at the back there. Rico Lewis, man, smashed it. It's good to see a couple of young England internationals, and we've got an English
Yeah.
midfield as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, bodes well for England at the World Cup. Well, at the Euros actually now, isn't it? Out the World Cup, man. At the Euros. Gents, thank you very much for your time as always. Congratulations to G, who's probably dreaming about his new bit of silverware and beating the likes of Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. I was winding him up earlier, but you know what? You can only beat what's put in front of you. So well done to Man United for that. We will see you again, obviously, on the next one, which will be episode 7. And we will be discussing in episode 7 these fixtures, guys. So for the last minute or so, let's just talk through these fixtures. We all agree that Arsenal will do the business at Everton, or do you think that's going to be a draw?
I think Arsenal will win that. To be honest.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. What are we saying, Liverpool Wolves, lads? Are we saying a draw or a win for Liverpool? I think Nunes is back.
Yeah, I think a draw. I think a draw, even though Wolves may. Yeah, I think a draw. They're at Anfield, aren't they? So yeah.
Yeah, normally if they're at Anfield, you expect to win.
Yeah.
It's almost like Anfield pulls them back.
Mm.
Ricky, what you saying, mate? Do you reckon? I don't know why I've got this feeling that Liverpool will win, but I see where you're coming from with the draw as well.
So yeah, the City Newcastle. I think City are going to win it. Yeah, I think we've found our quality back, and we're at home, so every right to
You know
believe.
what? City keep playing after Arsenal. When Spurs were in that
Now,
that title race with Leicester, we kept playing after Leicester, and it's so annoying because you want to put the pressure back on
yeah,
the team that you want to try and crack him, but you can't because the Premier League scheduling is just the way it is. And with you being in the Champions League, I just wonder how long that will carry on where Arsenal have that game in hand. But this is the game in hand, isn't it? This is the
this is the
extra
game
game.
in hand. Yeah,
Yeah, so at least that will be equal then, and then everyone knows where they stand with points, and then
yeah,
it's a straight run to the end from there.
Exactly.
Arsenal will play again. So if you drop points this weekend and Arsenal win both, that could be title race
could be,
over to Arsenal.
Yeah,
Arsenal to win at Bournemouth, I think we'll all agree. And then just coming down quickly
Yep.
before we close this, Chelsea Leeds. I mean, Leeds are getting spanked, VJ, man. They
Yeah,
don't
but so was
improve.
Southampton. So was Southampton until last weekend. But yeah, I'm weirdly enough, after all the talk, I think we should win that one.
Yeah, I think you win that, and Chelsea fans are going to be out on a parade bus, mate. Honestly, mate.
Yeah,
Just to get
we'll
3
be back in
points.
it, mate. We'll be looking at the title.
Top four
Definitely.
again, mate. It's on. It's on. Pot her in. So Chelsea to beat Leeds. Ricky, yeah, surely Chelsea going to. Well, I don't know, mate. I can't even say anything about Chelsea now. They're so unpredictable.
I think I'll do them at home.
You think
Chelsea
so?
will win. Chelsea will win. Yeah.
Do you know what? Because what have Leeds did to Man United when they went away and they got that 2-2? I'm going for a draw, man. I want your team to win, VJ, because I want to see you smile. Because
Mate,
since we've been
I'll take
going
a
on this,
point.
since all
Take a
episodes,
point.
we haven't had a Chelsea win, man. I actually want them to win for you now. Forget any top four race or anything else. I just want you to have a win, mate, because you haven't had a W. We're on episode
Yeah,
6
tell
and
me
we haven't
about
had a
it.
Chelsea win. It's getting to a point where I'm feeling sorry for you, man. So hopefully you get a win just for VJ. Do it for VJ.
Yeah, man.
Just to give you a win, something to be chirpy about. Spurs Wolves, I'm gonna go. Ooh, that's a tough one, man. Lopetegui's doing some good stuff over there. I'm gonna go. Oh, mate, this is tough, mate. Because Spurs on the road are
Spurs
Jekyll and
Wolves.
Hyde. Yeah. Bear in mind, we lost to City, being 2-0 up. We lost to Leicester 4-2, right? We lost to Milan on the road. And then obviously at home, we've won against City and Chelsea and West Ham. So on the road,
I'll
Spurs
tell
are
you,
wobbly, man.
Wolves are a tough side, man. I
I
mean,
know.
again,
I know.
they're in that sort of relegation, sort of in that fight, aren't they, as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are playing midweek, so
I'm going to back Spurs, man. I'm going to back the momentum. I'm going to back the fact that we have kept 2 clean sheets, one against 3 at home, Man City, West Ham, and Chelsea. That's not easy to do. So we've kept 3 clean sheets, and then we've gone and shipped 9 goals away. So it's a real left and right. Where do you go with Spurs at the moment? When they're away, it's difficult. When they're at home, they're getting clean sheets. But I'm gonna go 2-1. Ricky, Spurs or Wolves on that one, mate, or a draw?
I think it's going to be a draw.
Okay.
I'm going with a draw. Yeah.
I'm going with a draw. Okay. And last but not least, lads, the big one. The big one. Before our show next week. 9
I
o'clock.
think Everton win.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Forest. Liverpool, I mean, there's Liverpool Man U there as well, actually, fun enough. So I don't know. Yeah, should really talk about
Oh,
them
that
as
one,
well.
yeah,
But
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that was down the bottom there. That
Yeah.
that matter of basically a title race or top 4. But I think Man United are going to do it, aren't they, chaps? They're going to go to Liverpool and win, man.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so, man.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think that is going to be serious embarrassment, man. If you're a Liverpool fan, you need to literally just go on holiday, mate. Take your annual leave, take the whole month off, and just disappear, mate. Because Man United fans are coming with those knives. They've got the trophy now, so they'll be going on about that for the whole week. And then if they do you on Sunday, it is literally the final nail as a Liverpool fan for this year. It's just literally like, I can't do this anymore. And I wonder if how many of those Klopp-ins will turn, I want him out now. If we can't,
Yeah.
especially if they get battered to Liverpool. If they win 3-1 or 4-1 or something, then you know you could argue that they're not even playing for Klopp anymore. The effort's not there. But it's a derby, man. I'm sure. Listen, you could have no manager, and these sort of games, you as a player, you know what it means, and you turn up, and it's one of those form goes out the window games, isn't it? It's a fight, it's a battle. So we'll see what happens with Liverpool. You never know in the Premier League. Lads, thank you very much, VJ, for coming on again on episode 6 and being here pretty much every week, mate, representing the blue side of West London. And we all pray and hope that Chelsea get a win, just so that you feel a little bit part of, the winning feeling,
success that
coming
you
back.
all having.
The bit of success we're having, even though I've had no success as a Spurs fan by 1 trophy. But yeah, thanks for coming on, mate, with your views. Always a pleasure having you on with your experience and knowledge and wisdom. Ricky, you're becoming a part of the furniture here now, mate. I think you came on FFP and then you've came on to a couple of episodes now. I think this is your hat trick or your second one. I can't remember.
Hat trick. Yeah.
It's the hat trick, mate. Yep.
Yeah.
In true Man City style, in Haaland style, he's smashed in a hat trick. We hope to see you again as well next week, mate, and love the level-headedness and the balanced views that you bring about this title race, about the Champions League. And, you barely mention the past. You're always focused on the now and the future. And, City fans, you could all day sit here and talk about it and say, and we've seen Pep do it and said, I've won the Premier League. I mean, let someone else have it. But fair play to you, mate. You're a proper City fan. You've supported the club since you were a kid. And you've seen the hard times more than the good times, mate. So I guess that's where that perspective comes from.
I've got the Man City jumper there as well. So
okay.
I thought he was going to say, why always me?
Yeah, exactly.
Balotelli. Balotelli on the back.
This is my night bed, so I'm ready for bed now. So.
Oh, is that your bed? Is that your?
Oh,
is that
mate.
PJ, is it?
Very
oh,
good.
mate, he's sitting through and through, man. Bloody hell, mate. I'll be honest, man. This comes straight off now. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting into something more comfortable. This is not ideal for sleeping in, man. Definitely not that close to Tottenham just yet, man. But thanks to you guys. Thanks to G who had to drop off. Hash couldn't make it this week. He'll be back next week. And big up Sully, the Liverpool fan, who also couldn't make it this weekend, and we'll see him on the next episode. We'll see you guys on the next episode, and leave us a like, a share, a subscribe. See you on episode 7. Until then, lots of love, peace, and unity. All the best with your teams. Have a great week, and see you in 7 days, chaps. Good night.
Yes. All right.